we, the party, have become anti-immigration and anti-everything, and pro-border wall, and sort of no policy positions that are based on anything rational. And so in my mind, the Republican Party has become the rhinos, Republican in name only. I'm one of those people who thinks Republicans respect institutions and conservatives.
Well, baked into the heart of conservatism is the rule of law.
Yeah.
And that's the key here, is the rule of law and respecting the law and its existence. And that's the hard part about Trump is, let's say you pass an impeachment bill that includes that he can't be president again. Him and his followers don't care what that says. He doesn't care about being a legal or illegal president. He's president. Right. And we're going to impose our will on you through violence. And that's where this becomes dangerous, is that you've got two constitutions out there running. That's when it becomes, there's the hopeful view that you've just outlined is sort of like the 1918 pandemic, where everybody acted so awful that once it was kind of over, everybody just said, I want to forget this period of my life.
You're 6 minutes away from a live episode of Free Talk Live. Listen live at freetalklive.com.
No stone will be left unturned. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. That promise from the FBI as the agency investigates last week's riot at the Capitol. Agent Steve D'Antuono is with the FBI's Washington field office.
Even if you've left D.C., agents from our local field offices will be knocking on your door if we find out that you were part of the criminal activity at the Capitol.
The day before the riot, the FBI says it did brief law enforcement after discovering an online warning about storming the Capitol and a so-called war. House Democrats are pressing forward with efforts to remove President Trump from office. Tomorrow, an article of impeachment is expected to be voted on. Tonight, the chamber will take up a resolution urging Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment, something President Trump says he's not concerned about.
The impeachment hoax is a continuation of the greatest and most vicious witch hunt in the history of our country and is causing tremendous anger and division and pain.
The president in Alamo, Texas, in front of a section of border wall completed during his administration. Before leaving the White House, the president took no responsibility for the Capitol attack.
President Trump is not taking blame for last week's riot at the U.S. Capitol, telling reporters on the South Lawn his January 6th speech was totally appropriate, while comparing the Capitol violence to Black Lives Matter protests.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland. Fox News confirming House Republicans Liz Cheney and John Katko will back impeachment. During a phone call with the nation's governors, the vice president pledged a seamless transition. He said the Trump administration is working diligently with President-elect Joe Biden's team. More coronavirus vaccine for more Americans. The Trump administration will no longer hold back doses. America's listening to Fox News.
Good oral care habits keep you healthy. That means brushing your teeth for 2 minutes twice a day and replacing your bristles every 3 months. Quip, creators of the Quip electric toothbrush, makes it simple with a sleek design you'll want to use every day and timed sonic vibrations to guide your routine. Plus, Quip delivers a fresh brush head, floss refill, and toothpaste every 3 months when you need them. Set start at $25. Get your first refill free at getquip.com/newsbrief.
Banning President Trump from Twitter was apparently just the tip of the iceberg as social media platforms continue their crackdown.
Following last week's deadly riot on the Capitol by a mob of Trump supporters, Facebook has said they will remove any references to the Stop the Steal rallying cry in an effort to tamp down violent rhetoric before President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. In a blog post on the company's site, the social media giant said they've been preparing for inauguration since last year, but the deadly violence on the Capitol required additional steps. They've already removed the original Stop the Steal Facebook group last year and indefinitely banned President Trump from the site. Facebook has also kept a pause in place for ads about the election and U.S. politics. Brett Larson, Fox News.
Earlier today, President Trump said that big tech has made a terrible mistake. He added he's never seen such anger since the actions by big tech. Classrooms shut down because of the coronavirus will start reopening in one state capital.
After a 2-month break, schools in Boise will be putting students back in classrooms beginning next week, though with a hybrid format of both in-person and remote classrooms, as health officials in Boise say the coronavirus situation has improved, along with less strain on the area's hospitals.
Fox's Jeff Manasso, the city school district, will also start discussions on how to reopen schools full-time. We may think of them as nothing more than pests, but insects are vital to our survival, and scientists...
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
A hot new murder craze sweeps Chicago. Things that shouldn't be said in modern society are said 1,400 times at the RNC, and a brave woman enters a restaurant without first looking it up online. This is the Onion Week in Review. The World Wildlife Fund quickly backtracked Thursday from a recently released press statement saying panda ears are, quote, absolutely delicious. Organization officials noted that while panda ears do taste amazing braised, steamed, fried, or cooked in an omelet, they should not have announced it publicly, nor should they have ever eaten any part of a cheetah, giraffe, or Bengal tiger, no matter how good they may be. According to company sources, the Netflix board of directors held a tense series of meetings earlier this morning to decide whether the fantasy comedy Michael is stream-worthy. The board reportedly sat through its mandatory 2 back-to-back screenings of the 1996 film starring John Travolta as an angel visiting Earth, all while passionately arguing over the film's story, acting, and level of enjoyment upon subsequent viewings to determine if the movie should be available through its instant viewing program.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. As always, you can give us a call, talk about whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
Is Ian.
And man, censorship out there on the internet is going wild, with Twitter purging more than 70,000 accounts affiliated with QAnon after the Capitol riot. There's also Parler, which has just completely and totally gone dark, largely as a result of monopolistic powers wielded by tech giants like Google, Apple, and Amazon.
Did you see also that somebody scraped gigabytes or terabytes or whatever of data off of Parler?
I did. It was something like 180 terabytes, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
but yeah,
like
because it's
a bunch
just
of posts from their users.
Because it's just badly programmed. They weren't removing metadata from videos and photos, so when they were uploaded, it was still tagged with their location, and it's just a complete mess out there. And it's not getting any better. Cumulus, which is you would need to describe Cumulus.
I would say they are the number 1 or 2, I forget where right now, largest radio corporation.
iHeartMedia would be their primary competition.
iHeartMedia, formerly known as Clear Channel, and Cumulus, they're big.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on maybe 2 or 3 Cumulus stations out there, not a whole lot of them, but we are on some of their stations.
Well, they've evidently told their talk radio hosts that, hey, you need to stop talking about this Stop the Steal nonsense, or we're going to kill your show. Facebook is also now blocking posts that use the term Stop the Steal. It's just insane what is happening, but the bulk of it is directed at Parler, which is a alternative social media site that people were flocking to after the Trump election because of the intense censorship that you find on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all of these other places.
And that's gotten even worse over just the last week.
It has gotten significantly worse, yes. And it's going to get worse as Biden and the controlling Democrats who, 6 months ago, they were talking about how these companies wield monopolistic power. Facebook has to be broken up. They're a monopoly. They're anti-competitive. But when they start using that power against their enemies, unsurprisingly, suddenly they don't have any objection to it.
Right.
So critics of Silicon Valley censorship for years heard the same refrain. This is coming to us from greenwald.substack.com. Tech platforms like Facebook, Google, and Twitter are private corporations and can host or ban whoever they want. If you don't like what they're doing, the solution is not to complain or to regulate them. Instead, go create your own social media platform.
I agree.
That operates the way that you think it should. Indeed, you've done it.
I've been saying that.
We've
done that. We can talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. So the founders of Parler heard that suggestion, and they also tried. In August of 2018, they created a social media platform similar to Twitter, but which promised far greater privacy protections, which they failed to deliver on, including a refusal to aggregate user data in order to monetize them, and so on. Over the last year, Parler encountered immense success. Millions of people who objected to increasing repression of speech on the largest platforms, or who had themselves been banned, signed up for the new social media company. As Silicon Valley censorship radically escalated over the last several months, including banning pre-election reporting by the New York Post about the Biden family, denouncing and deleting multiple posts from the U.S. president, and then terminating his access altogether, mass removal of right-wing accounts, many people migrated to Parler, and it was catapulted to the #1 spot on the list of most downloaded apps on the Apple Play Store. Overall, it was the 10th most downloaded social media app in 2020. So it looked as if they were successful. But today, if you want to download, sign up for, or use Parler, you will not be able to do so. That's because 3 Silicon Valley monopolies, Amazon, Google, and Apple, abruptly united to
Well, they're not
Parler.
monopolies. Now, this is Glenn Greenwald who's writing this?
I don't know his first name. Yes.
Yeah. So, definitely he's a great journalist. I've got a lot of respect for Glenn Greenwald. For those that don't know, he's the guy who broke the Edward Snowden story.
Okay.
He recently had to walk away from a company that he co-founded, which is the hell's their name? I'm spacing on it. Anyway, not Inquisitor, but it starts with an I. Anyway, he co-founded this company after he left the Guardian out in the UK, and so he co-founded this with the idea of it being this sort of independent journalism thing, and it was that for a while, and then some board of directors got in charge of the thing, and then they started running it as like a leftist talking piece, essentially running the co-founder out of his own company, basically. And so he walked from this other group and started his own blog on this particular website. So it's not his website, but it is purportedly a site that allows bloggers to, or journalists or whatever, to do their journalism and collect directly from their viewers or their readers in this case. So he's a very well-respected journalist, but I will quibble with calling these companies monopolies. By definition, they're not. It's very
right. Google and Apple compete with each other.
Correct. It's very common to call big companies monopolies because it sounds bad, and these are bad, companies doing a lot of bad things, but they're ultimately not monopolies. They can be competed with. It's just harder than ever because they have this starting point that is incredibly, they've been at it for a long time, right? Like they've got an advantage because they're established, and it's never easy to go up against the king of the hill as the little guy.
Right. Good point. But they did sort of become a monopoly when they abruptly united to remove Parler from the internet exactly at the moment when it became the most downloaded app in the country.
That would make them an oligopoly, I think would be the right term for that.
Oligopoly?
Yeah.
Okay. If one were looking for evidence to demonstrate that these tech behemoths are, in fact, monopolies that engage in anti-competitive behavior in violation of antitrust laws and will obliterate any attempt to compete with them in the marketplace, it would be difficult to imagine anything more compelling than how they just use their unconstrained power to utterly destroy a rising competitor. Now, I don't think that Parler was actually a competitor to Amazon, Google, and Apple. It was a competitor to Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, you're right about that. Amazon, Google, and Apple are completely acting in a political manner And while some will claim that this is a leftist thing, and it certainly is convenient to label it that because, well, that's the way it looks, this is a statist thing. Yeah. And the whole idea here is, Parler's bad because somebody said something on Parler about, what happened in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol building last week. Therefore, Parler assisted indirectly in this, attack against our democracy and the system and DC and all these religious symbols, right? Because the Capitol is essentially just the church of the state. It's one of their church buildings, and some people came in there and they disrespected the church.
Good for them.
And I loved watching it, even though I knew. I mean, I didn't watch it live, but I saw some of the footage later. Even though I knew that these people weren't there because they were against the church, they're just against the priests that are in charge of the church at the moment. They want the church to stay. They want to have their priests in charge of the church. So ultimately, it was a pointless endeavor, although it still had the beneficial aspect of disrespecting, at the very least, this church as it stands. And so because Google and Amazon and Apple and these other companies that they don't have a political position per se, but they are creatures of the state. They do benefit largely in a lot of ways from the state. Amazon, for instance, is the web host for a ton of state agencies, including the CIA.
Oh, that's not discouraging or alarming at all.
So, I mean, there's literally an S-load of federal agencies, and I'm sure a large number of state ones, but I know for a fact federals that hire Amazon for their web services.
I mean, beyond that, how about how the U.S. Postal Service will deliver mail on Sundays now for Amazon?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, it doesn't get more clear that they're in bed together than that.
Right. And, these companies all lobby the state. They all try to get favors. I'm sure they're paying various different bribes to these state agencies. So, I mean, they're in bed, and they are not going to leave them without assistance.
They're not. So this attack began on January the 8th. We're going to tell you all about this almost entirely united attack on Parler to just shut it down entirely. You can't find Parler on the internet today. What are your thoughts on this censorship? 603-283-6160. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. That's 603-283-6160.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. Anything that's on your mind, you can give us a call. You can talk about it on live national radio. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. And Bitcoin is on sale for those who didn't get it when it was at $40,000 or whatever it was at. But maybe you're new to crypto, you don't know anything about it, then head on over to bitcoin.com because it's the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Just go there, click on Get Started at the top of the page, and you'll find all sorts of information neatly organized by your needs. So you really no longer have an excuse to ignore this important world-changing information. But if you are a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines of all the news relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a sleek, slick, and easy-to-use website. You can find it at bitcoin.com. And you can also buy Bitcoin there for those interested at exchange.bitcoin.com or local.bitcoin.com. There are all sorts of valuable things on over there. Check it out, bitcoin.com.
If you're going to use their exchange, which is a fine exchange, by the way, they've got a lot of volume over there. It's actually one of the bigger ones, it seems like. You probably want to use a VPN if you're in the U.S.
Can you still, will they accept payment from a U.S.?
If you're on a VPN, then they don't know where you are.
But the payment would come from like a U.S. bank, presumably.
Oh, no, yeah, you wouldn't be able to send money from a bank.
Okay.
But if you had crypto you wanted to exchange, you could do that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So let's go to the phones. We've got Truth Seeker calling. Truth Seeker, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and talk to you two about nuclear weapons. I don't know if you've ever talked about the fact that they're a hoax or not.
Hoax?
Oh, I've never heard that claim.
Okay. And I mean, I've listened to your show a lot, and I follow libertarian circles, and I haven't really heard anyone else talking about it. But yeah, really, nuclear weapons and nuclear fallout from nuclear meltdowns at power plants is all just a hoax. The easiest way to tell that it is a hoax is, first of all, they've never been independently verified. It's all government propaganda that there are nuclear weapons. Second of all, they've never ever been used. I mean, go ahead, sorry.
Your contention is that nuclear weapons do not exist.
Correct.
Can I clarify this question? I mean, I'm not like a science expert or anything like that. Are you saying that atomic weapons are also a hoax, or atomic weapons real, nuclear weapons hoax?
Yeah, atomic nuclear weapons are a hoax.
Atomic. So you're saying what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a hoax?
Correct.
That's ridiculous.
What motivation would Japan have had to play along with this hoax from the American government?
Saving millions of lives and saving face.
How did that save
they were able to
millions of lives to allow them to be blown up in two of the largest explosions?
I'm sorry. You're right. It wasn't the United States did it to save millions of American lives. Japan did it to save face. That way they could.
How did that save millions of American lives? The Japanese were ready to surrender before the Americans dropped those bombs.
Okay.
So what is there at Nagasaki and Hiroshima right now?
All I can say is that there's no scientific evidence whatsoever that they exist. There's no.
You mean except for all the people who witnessed it and who had their families and their lives torn apart by large explosions?
Sure. I'm not saying there weren't weapons used. There weren't bombs dropped on them.
They just dropped non-nuclear weapons.
Wait, hold on. Just to clarify, what was it you just said, sir?
I was just saying, yeah, there were bombs dropped on them. They just weren't atomic bombs.
Oh, okay. So you are acknowledging that there was a tremendous amount of destruction and death brought to the Japanese people by the United States. Okay, I was worried for a moment you were denying that actually had happened. Okay.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
No, I'm not denying that. No,
okay.
So what about Chernobyl?
They were definitely.
Why would the Soviet government have any motivation whatsoever to make themselves and their technology look weak by perpetrating this lie about Chernobyl?
I haven't looked into that. All I can say, I understand the questions of why would they do that.
That's sort of the ultimate example of a nuclear power meltdown. You say, they don't actually leak radiation. They don't actually have radiation or whatever. My question to you is, well, what about this largest nuclear meltdown or the most publicized one in world history? You haven't looked into that?
No, I haven't. I've looked into it. I'm just saying I haven't. The reason they would keep up the hoax is because they want people to think they have nuclear weapons.
Okay, here's another question for you.
With.
Is there such a thing as nuclear power, or is that also a hoax?
Yes. Yeah, there is nuclear power. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But when there's a nuclear meltdown, it releases some heat, and that's it. You're done. It's done.
So you're saying that
it melts lead, so it's definitely, quote, some heat.
You were saying that if you were, if there were a nuclear meltdown, or the next time there's a nuclear meltdown, if for whatever reason you could actually get in there, because obviously they're going to lock down the area, especially if it's a hoax, right? So they don't want anybody to get in and see it. But if you could, you would walk right up to the radiator or the towers or wherever it is the thing happened.
Let's say he'd walk up to the elephant foot,
and you'd be like, everything's fine.
Yeah, you can walk in after a couple weeks.
Yeah,
you would suffer no ill effect.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard this claim before.
On what do you base this claim? I mean, is the Earth flat? Is it one of these kinds of things where it says, "Oh, well, everybody says it"?
No, definitely not.
No. Okay, well, that's good.
No. Again, now you have to think you've never heard of this before. First of all, again, like I was saying at the very first, they have never been independently verified that these nuclear weapons exist. Mm-hmm. Everything is propaganda from the government. There's no independent agency.
I feel like there are a lot of
verified
Japanese people out there who would dispute that assertion that it wasn't independently verified as it killed them.
Well, he's saying that wasn't an atomic bomb, which is different from a nuclear weapon, I believe.
Well, what about the people who died later from radiation poisoning, or the people who are still having birth defects because of the radiation?
Yeah, and there's a whole article written by a gentleman online that goes into all of that. I'm not an expert that I can just spout off everything exactly what happened. It is all documented as to the fakery and the fake photos and everything that was done. You can just search for atomic bomb hoax, and you can find out information online about it. Again,
so these survivors
nuclear scientists. Go ahead.
So these survivors who talk about radiation poisoning and who, in fact, died from radiation poisoning, or who, produced children who had birth defects, they're government agents? They're making it all up?
No, the media made it up.
The media made it up. Well,
These people exist, though.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, there is no such thing as nuclear radiation.
Well, it could be possible
exist.
that they. I mean, it's not impossible that he's right. That this is all just a hoax, but that these people got themselves sick on their own volition, meaning that they manifested all these negative conditions because they believed that they had been subjected to nuclear radiation.
And again,
thank you for the call, Truth
I mean,
Seeker.
that could be true.
It's not impossible, but man, I don't think it's likely.
At least he didn't think the Earth was flat.
That's true.
And at least he wasn't denying that there were bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, there definitely were. 603-283-6160. Do nuclear weapons exist? Is radiation real?
Let's talk about other things.
603-283-6160.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11, and he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has a beautiful coat, and at 11, he'll still run and chase the ball. He has been on Dynavite since he's a puppy.
Dynavite for life.
Because if they're getting all their vitamins, micronutrients, microbials from the beginning, then you're not going to run into the problems associated with the grass, pollen, dust, dirt, fleas, ticks, you name it, and the itching and shedding down the road. DINOVITE.com.
We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dynavite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynavite from DINOVITE.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
A prison rights group protests the treatment of supervillains in the nation's magnetic detainment cubes. A local dad thought he could make it out of a zoo without buying his kids light-up shit, and a pigeon wishes just once it could complete a head movement smoothly. This is the Onion Week in Review. Millions of frustrated Americans across the country asked this week why the nation's struggling mental health system couldn't just get it together and stop feeling sorry for itself. Exasperated citizens told reporters that they had lost all patience with the ailing network's failure to perform basic tasks, such as routine mental health evaluations and emergency counseling.
Look, I get it. Everyone goes through a rough patch. Just look at the education system. I know times are tough, but things are never going to improve unless the system decides it wants to get better.
In other news, a new study finds that more men are opting to be in the room when their wife conceives their baby. An area man is unaware all of his friends think of him when they want to put things into perspective, and 36 chemical and emotional responses are activated by the phrase pigs in a blanket.
This This is the Onion News Network.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. And you know, someone on Twitch pointed it out to me, and I wish I had thought to ask him whether or not the previous caller believes that birds are real. Because birdsaren'treal.com is a real website, and it's clearly a troll, right? Well, you can get t-shirts that say birds aren't real. They're secretly government drones and stuff like that. But prior to that, we were talking about Parler and internet censorship.
Things that we can actually have some sort of control over, right?
Yes.
Because if you believe that there are no nuclear weapons, as our last caller did, well, then all you can really do with that is try to convince people. But what does that really do? Like, what would it change?
Good point. Even if he convinced us that nuclear weapons weren't real and that radiation wasn't real, what does it matter?
Where do you go from there?
So this attack on Parler began on January the 8th when Apple emailed Parler and gave them 24 hours to prove that they had changed their moderation practices or they would face removal from the App Store. The letter claimed, "We have received numerous complaints regarding objectionable content in your Parler service. Accusations that the Parler app was used to plan, coordinate, and facilitate the illegal activities in Washington, D.C. that led to loss of life, numerous injuries, and the destruction of property." It ended with this warning: "To ensure that there is no interruption of the availability of your app on the Apple Store, please submit an update and the requested moderation improvement plan within 24 hours of the date of this message." The 24-hour letter was an obvious pretext and purely performative. Removal was inevitable no matter what Parler did. To begin with, the letter was immediately leaked to BuzzFeed, which published it in full. A Parler executive detailed the company's unsuccessful attempts to communicate with Apple, saying they basically ghosted us. Apple said they won't distribute apps that present dangerous and harmful content, and they rejected the app from the store.
Surprise, surprise.
In October, though, going back a bit, the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, Commercial, and Administrative Law issued a 425-page report that contained only the name of their ridiculous committee, but in there was also a little bit about Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google possessing, quote, monopoly power and using that power anti-competitively. For Apple, they emphasized the company's control over iPhones through its control of access to the App Store. They then go into some numbers about how much Apple really controls regarding the iPhone, but shortly thereafter, Parler learned that Google, without warning, had also suspended it from the Play Store, severely limiting the ability of users to download Parler onto Android phones. But with Apple, the App Store is the only way that you can install apps. With Google, you can go to third-party app stores if you know they exist and if you know
or you can just get the APK straight from the vendor, meaning that if Parler were to have published, and maybe they did, I don't know, I don't follow what they do, but if they had published their app on their own website, you could have just gone there and just downloaded it on your phone, and then usually Google pops up a warning saying, hey, this isn't coming from an approved source, meaning not from Google. And so then you have to change a setting to allow that, and then you'll be allowed to install it when you try to download it again.
That was how I installed Cell 411, even though it was no longer on the Google Play Store. I think it is again now.
It is now, for the moment, until they decide they don't like Cell 411.
Yeah. It was precisely Google's abuse of its power to control its app device that was at issue when the European Commission deemed Google LLC as the dominant undertaking in the app stores for the Android mobile operating system and ordered them to pay a fine. But the day after a united Apple and Google acted against Parler, Amazon delivered the fatal blow.
Yeah.
The company, founded and run by the world's richest man, used virtually identical language as Apple to inform Parler that its web hosting service was terminating Parler's ability to have Amazon host its site. Because Parler cannot comply with our terms of service and poses a very real risk to public health, we plan to suspend Parler's account effective Sunday, January the 10th at midnight. Because Amazon is such a dominant force in web hosting, Parler has thus far not found a hosting service for its platform, which is why it has disappeared not only from app stores and phones, but also from the internet.
There's obviously somebody out there who will do this sort of hosting.
I'm confident that Agorist Hosting would probably take them on.
I don't know who it is. I don't know how big Agorist Hosting, can go as far as, Parler by no means is a small app, right? It had a huge growth, so you have to have some serious computing power out there to be able to handle something like that. That said, Gab is still in existence. You remember Gab?
I do, but Gab censors people.
Sure. Chris Cantwell went too far for Gab, for instance. And I suspect Parler would also censor people, which is why whenever I hear people saying, "Oh, just go to this platform over here. Oh, leave Facebook and go to Parler. Leave Facebook and go to MeWe or Mayway or however you pronounce it or whatever these other ones are." It's like, yeah, sure, that'll work for the next 6 months until everybody focuses their attention on that thing, and then the owners start to feel the heat like Parler did. So I was never excited about any of these other platforms out there, with the exception of Mastodon, which is the only one that has any real semblance of decentralization to it.
Right.
And even with Mastodon, it's not totally decentralized because you are still going to a server. There's still somebody has a server in Iraq somewhere, and that can be targeted wherever it happens to be. And the problem is, it's not just going to be a problem with Amazon. Amazon is just big enough to make a big splash when they make a decision about this. But there's a ton of smaller hosts out there, all of which are organized under corporate bylaws. Every single one of them asked permission from the government to exist. And I guarantee you, without personally having looked at it myself, but having seen enough terms of service over time, guarantee you, if you look at their terms of service, it'll say something about you must follow all the laws that the government puts into place in order for you to be hosted on this service. And so all they have to do is just interpret that, oh, well, you're in violation of this government law, so therefore we can cancel your contract because we as a government-approved corporation don't want to be associated with anybody who would be against the government. So it's really just a matter of, these companies.
And in that particular case, your only option is to go to the dark web, is to cut out the web host entirely. Or the
dark web has a web host. I mean, most of the dark web sites are hosting on some web host.
Really? I assumed they were in-house.
No, I don't think so.
Not necessarily in-house, but I assumed they were self-hosted.
Meaning on their own computer from their own house?
Well, not necessarily. I would hope they're not stupid enough to host a darknet website on their,
Well, then in that
PC
case,
in
they're
their
hiring
house.
somebody. In every story I've ever seen of dark web takedowns, whether it be the Silk Road or whether it be the Playpen, whether we're talking about drugs or porn, it's always some host somewhere. Now, usually the host itself doesn't know it's being used for darknet purposes per se, as I understand it.
Okay.
Maybe they do. Maybe they can monitor the ports or whatever, and they can see that some of their clients are using darknet. I'm not enough of a network admin to be able to be 100% about how obscured some of that stuff is, and maybe there's some of them who are just fine with it. They're like, well, it's darknet. We don't know what it is, so we're not going to take action because we don't know what it is. But if it's brought to their attention somehow, and we know that the federal government has been able to somehow de-anonymize certain darknet websites, and we're still not sure, for instance, how they found the Silk Road servers. That information never came out in the trial. It was never talked about in Ross Ulbricht's trial. So we still don't know the method as to how they figured it out. But they've figured it out, and they've gone to those web hosts and they've said, who owns this account? And they found out.
So on Thursday, Parler was the most popular app in the United States. By Monday, 3 of the 4 Silicon Valley monopolies united to destroy it.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is.
And now they think they can sue Amazon over it, and I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think Parler has the money to sue Amazon.
Well, they hired somebody. According to this is CBSNews.com, they have filed the suit.
They have indeed. They're suing Amazon after the technology company booted them But there's a bit more to this previous article before we jump into how they're reacting to this, because, liberals have always been against this. Facebook, they're too powerful. Apple is too powerful. They need to be broken up. They're a monopoly like Greenwald here. But now, when that power is being used against a service they don't like, they have no objection to it whatsoever. Indeed, some of the companies praising Facebook, some of the people, I'll get into it in a moment. It's Free Talk Live.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. Take control of the airwaves. Talk about whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160 is the number to do that. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Ian.
And you've heard us talking about Divi here on Free Talk Live, and maybe you wanted to set up one of their easy-to-deploy masternodes or stake Divi so that you can begin earning Divi right now. Well, Ian here has actually set up a Divi masternode, and he said it was super easy and that staking was even easier. We're not investment advisors here, but we think you'll be impressed with your earning potential with Divi compared to traditional investment vehicles. Go to diviproject.org and get started. You can buy Divi at several exchanges or directly from the Divi team. And if you need help, there's a link to their Telegram channel right on the front page at diviproject.org. That's diviproject.org. And we've been talking about Parler, but before we get further into it and how the tech giants are not conspiring together, but uniting together to shut down Parler, we have Surf Daddy calling from California. Surf Daddy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey.
Hey, Ian.
What's up? What's on your mind?
You've been dedicated to Free Talk Live a long time, huh?
Well, it's my show, so yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been an on and off listener since, I think, 2012.
Cool, thank you.
And I've called the show a number of times. But are you getting to the point where you're starting to worry about what you guys do there now?
No, why would I worry?
Well, they're taking down a lot of people, a lot of platforms.
How would worrying help?
Well, how would that help? Well, of course, if you're concerned about something, then you react to it before it happens.
Oh, you're talking about being prepared. That's different than worrying about a thing.
Okay.
So, if you worry about a thing, then it just puts you into paralysis and frustration or fear or something like that. So what you can do instead is to analyze the situation and determine what sort of actions you might want to take to reduce the risk or reduce the the damage of a thing if it comes to pass. So to that end, we have been over the years doing some more decentralized things with Free Talk Live, but there's only so much we can do. I mean, there's always going to be certain central points of failure, for instance. So we're on a satellite network, and if, for instance, the satellite network decides they want to take us off the air, well, then we could buy another satellite channel. But if the satellite provider wants to take us off the air, just not even allow us to buy the channel, they could do that, right? So,
at which point you're looking at having to build, maintain, and launch your own satellite into space,
which you wouldn't be able to do, likely, because there's only so many places from which, even if you had the money to do it, only so many launch pads exist, and I'm sure many of them have government controls, in place. So likely we would have to then go internet only as far as our distribution, which would essentially lose us almost every radio station that we have. So there's no way to truly insulate yourself in this world from these sorts of attacks. However, there are things that you can do to do more decentralization, like we did recently with our Matrix chat server, which allow our listeners to chat with each other without the threat of some corporate big tech giant holding an axe over their head. We started that back in September.
Which is what happened with Discord.
Yeah, Discord
Matrix
did
is an
cut
alternative to Discord.
Correct. So we were a little late to the game on that. I had known about Matrix, but previously I wasn't impressed with the client software. It used to be called Riot, and now it's called Element, and they've made it much more user-friendly in the last 2 years. So we actually did try. I realize it's a really long answer to your question, so just bear with me here. But we actually did test out Matrix 3 years ago here in the Keene area. So like before I would ever put it on the air or as part of the show, we were just trying it as activists, right, just to see how it worked here. And we got a little bit of interest in it, and some people were regularly there and kind of trying it out. And it was just the software was way too secure for the average person to really be able to pick up and utilize. It was always bugging you about security features and checking keys, and it was a pain in the butt. And so the new system they've got, the new software is called Element. And it's much easier to use, and so I finally once Discord gave me the reason to finally do it, I was like, all right, let's put Matrix in here, and we went with it, and it's been working great. So that's a way for our listeners to chat. We just today, actually, I haven't even finished the blog post about it, but it is online, so I can now announce it. We do have our own social media platform now. It's called FTL Social. You can go to social.freetalklive.com. Go ahead.
No, I said, wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So it's a Mastodon-based platform, and if listeners have been tuned in over the last 2 years, you've probably heard us talking about Mastodon. We've been promoting Mastodon as a decentralized alternative to things like Twitter and to some extent Facebook, even though it's basically a Twitter clone.
I just set up an account last night.
On what?
On Mastodon.
Oh, which one?
So, Mastodon.
Well, there's thousands of Mastodon instances, so you'd have to know which instance you set the account up on.
Yeah, I'd have to look again. I just started getting into it. And
so you signed up without knowing which instance you wanted. That probably means you went on their default Mastodon instance, which would mean you're under terms of service that are very restrictive by comparison to, let's say, what I'm calling the anti-terms of service.
I don't remember seeing a terms of service when I signed up for the Free Talk Live social.
There's a page there, and it's...
I didn't click it.
It's called terms of service. Most people don't, right? They're terms of service. People don't pay attention to that stuff. But I've actually titled ours the anti-terms of service.
Okay, I need to click this now.
I haven't edited the link. I don't know. We'd have to go into like the HTML to find the actual links, but when you get there, it says anti-terms of service. Basically, like, hey, we don't owe you anything, and we don't owe you any service. So if you make this too hard for us to deal with, we'll just get rid of you. Basically, if you're causing a huge problem with other listeners, but basically encouraging people to use the block command if there's someone there they don't like, right? Like you don't have to pay attention to those people. But anyway, check out social.freetalklive.com. It is Mastodon, so for listeners that are unfamiliar, that means it is federated. So like the Matrix chat I was talking about earlier, I didn't talk about what the federation action was there. So Matrix, Mastodon, these are all self-hosted servers running on our server. So it's centralized in that way, in that if our server blows up, then all of that's gone. Of course, we probably will have a backup somewhere off-site. But they are centralized in that way, but they're all what's called federated, which means that they are connected to all of the other, or in theory, all of the other Matrix and or Mastodon servers out there. So on our Matrix server, other people from other Matrix servers can come into some of the rooms, but there are other rooms that are our server only. But some rooms can let anybody in from anywhere across the entire what they call Fediverse. So any of these other Matrix servers, the thousands or however many of them there are out there. Same thing's true with Mastodon. With Mastodon, anyone can come in from any other server as long as you haven't broken the links to that server. And so sort of by default, from what I understand on Mastodon, you can reach anywhere else in the Fediverse unless that somewhere else has said, no, we don't want to hear from you. Right, so
if I post to my Liberdon account, will it reach the Free Talk Live?
If I am following you, so my account on the Free Talk Live social.freetalklive.com, I can follow you on Liberdon. I can follow, if Chris Cantwell were on Gab, but he got banned, I could follow Chris Cantwell on Gab, or I could follow somebody on a socialist server or whatever, as long as there aren't disconnects between those servers.
Okay.
And
I
by
think I see
default,
what you're
there
saying.
aren't. Yeah, so as long as you know the user's name or whatever, and I think you might even be able to search to some extent. I'm not sure how far that extends or how that works exactly. I'm not an expert at it yet, but if I know the name of a person on a Mastodon server, as long as those servers don't specifically block one another, then we can connect and I can follow those people.
It's really cool technology. Surf Daddy, thank you so much for the call. It's a fascinating time to watch all of these decentralized things go into play. Of course, LBRY is another, which is a video hosting platform. Well, it's supposedly supposed to have other things like books and stuff like that. But
yes,
in reality, what it became was a video hosting platform similar to YouTube, except the content is decentralized. It uses a sort of torrent mechanism to distribute the actual content, and the links to that
and
content.
There's a crypto involved
as
well.
LBRY credits. It's built on blockchain technology. The links to the actual content are stored on the blockchain, although the content itself isn't, obviously, because that would be prohibitively large.
Yeah.
So there are awesome things happening.
Well, the content is stored across multiple devices, though, and duplicated.
If people download it.
Yeah.
But they have to download it and then
anyone
keep that
watches
content.
Anyone that watches a video is by default, as I understand it, downloading and seeding that video.
Yes.
Unless they somehow choose to delete it later. I don't know. Right. I've used LBRY, but I'm not an expert at it. And the nice thing about it is you don't need to be in order for it to work for you.
And they'll give you free LBRY credits so that you can actually utilize the platform just for installing the application and going through some viewing content. And this is a cryptocurrency to whatever degree. So you can trade in a sense making money just to consume content.
Well, that's actually one of the. I don't know if you get paid every time you watch a video. I don't think it works that way.
No, it's like once a week or something. You
can
get paid to LBC.
Pay to watch videos. You can pay the creator of that video in these credits, and it cuts out the middleman. There's no YouTube sitting in the way saying, well, we'll just take 70% of that ad revenue. Instead, it all goes to the creator.
It's very cool. And of course, a lot of creators can put their content online for free on LBRY if that's what they want to do. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
They have grave concerns over violent threats. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. In a statement, the Democratic chairs of several House committees say more needs to be done to preempt and prevent deadly assaults by domestic violent extremists. They issued a statement after federal agents held a briefing about last week's riot at the Capitol.
We're looking at significant felony cases tied to sedition and conspiracy. Just yesterday, our office organized a strike force of very senior national security prosecutors.
Acting U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin, the FBI says it expects to file hundreds of criminal cases. Tomorrow, the House is expected to vote on impeaching President Trump a second time, and so far, 3 House Republicans, including Liz Cheney, have said they'll vote in favor of it. Fox News has also learned that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is open to censuring the president. Later tonight, the House is expected to vote on a resolution urging Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. The New York Times is reporting that the Senate's Republican leader has told associates he believes the president committed impeachable offenses. Mitch McConnell is said to be pleased that Democrats are moving to impeach him. As the coronavirus spreads unchecked around the world, the CDC says all air passengers must be tested for the virus before entering the U.S. Ramping up the rollout, the Trump administration is putting more vaccine in circulation.
We're telling states today that they should open vaccinations to all of their most vulnerable people. That is the most effective way to save lives now.
That's Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. Azar is accusing some states of micromanaging the process, making it difficult for people to access vaccine. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're using anything other than Indeed for your hiring, you are wasting your time. Hire great people faster with Indeed. Only pay for results and get back time in your schedule. Indeed.com helps you find quality candidates instantly with Indeed Instant Match. Gives you full control and payment flexibility, and there are no long-term contracts. Get started right now with a free $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through March 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
Without providing any hard evidence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that al-Qaeda has established a new home in Iran and says the country's leaders are providing the group a safe haven.
We ignore this Iran al-Qaeda nexus at our own peril. We need to acknowledge it. We must confront it. Indeed, we must defeat it.
Iran is denying ties to the terror group. The country's foreign minister calls the allegation fictitious warmongering. Secretary Pompeo also confirming that al-Qaeda's number 2, Abu Muhammad al-Masri, was killed over the summer by Israeli operatives in Iran. A change of plans in Minneapolis, where 4 former police officers face charges in connection with the death of George Floyd. They'll no longer be tried together.
Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin faces trial in March. 3 other former officers will face trial together in late August. The switch to separate trials, Hennepin County Judge Peter Cahill says due to physical limitations and coronavirus restrictions. Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter. 3 other former officers are accused of aiding and abetting in last year's police custody death of George Floyd. They'll expect defense teams to point to a coroner's report showing heart disease and a fatal amount of fentanyl in Floyd's system when he died. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
There's a new flag flying at the Mississippi State House. The new flag has a magnolia.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
This is the Onion Week in Review, pushed to the breaking point after constantly being taken to task without ever hearing a word of thanks for what it does around here. An overwhelmed and infuriated nation announced Wednesday that it was trying, okay? Jesus Christ. A poll of the American populace revealed that 33% felt they were doing pretty damn well, all things considered, while another 28% just wanted 2 measly minutes without somebody breathing down their damn neck. A group of female friends spent a raucous night on the town Thursday validating the living shit out of each other.
You're the most talented person I know.
Eyewitness reports say the women absolutely went to town on a session of non-judgmental reassurances.
Last night was crazy. I don't even remember half the uplifting things I said to Karen. We've always been the kind of group that listens hard and consoles even harder.
And in other news, a group of semester at sea students steal an anchor for their dorm room. A 5-year-old wants to be an overworked Haitian nanny when he grows up. And every group of friends at a karaoke bar ruins every other group's night.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live with Ian and Aria tonight, 603-283-6160. If you want to call in, talk about whatever's on your mind, that's 603-283-6160. You know, it just occurred to me, I'm really excited about all of this show prep that's sitting here in front of me because not one of these stories is related to COVID-19.
That's true.
Not a single one of these things. I do have one that's related to Yelp and it releasing a new thing that allows people to snitch on businesses aren't requiring, that aren't doing the whole mask and social distancing crap. But I closed out of that because there's so much censorship-related stuff to talk about that there's no need to get on that. So happily, that's the only mention of COVID-19 we're hoping to get tonight, and that's only because it really just noted. Yeah, I just noticed.
I got one too, and that is that just worth mentioning in Canada. Have you heard about what's been going on there? This is less to do with COVID and more to do with total police state lockdown.
Are the mooses becoming Jaws?
CTV News, which is, as you probably know, government arm of they're the equivalent of the BBC there in Canada. Breaking. All law enforcement and provincial offenses officers, including OPP, local police, bylaw enforcement, and province workplace inspectors, will be able to issue tickets to anyone who doesn't comply with the stay-at-home order. They literally have, there's video I've seen of cars, cop cars, rolling through the streets in Canada, blaring their sirens in the middle of the night, because now there's a curfew. And I don't know if it's nationwide or just provincial or whatever, but there's a curfew in at least some of the provinces there in Canada. It starts at like 8 p.m. or whatever. So they literally have police cars. Imagine a police cruiser rolling down your street as slow as possible. So I'm not just talking about them doing your normal police thing where they flip the lights on and then just, drive down the street.
Yeah.
This is going like 5, maybe 10 miles an hour or something like that, like as slow as the car can basically go.
To enforce the curfew.
To enforce the curfew, to remind people that the police are out there. That's the point of this. They're not looking for one person in particular. They just want everybody in the neighborhood to know that they're there and that they're going to get you.
I feel like that's not related to COVID-19. I mean, that's just governments being tyrannical.
Well, right. That's what COVID-19 was the excuse for, was to implement this insane level of tyranny. And it's getting more insane.
It is, even though, now there's a vaccine. And I did have a story about that as well, but I ended up closing it as well because it's stupid. But yeah, it's all been an excuse. Whether or not COVID-19 is real, whether or not it's killing people, it's immaterial to me. Yeah. The government is clearly exploiting the ever-loving crap out of it.
And these corporations are linking arm in arm with the government and doing everything that the government asks them to do. The CDC's recommendations, they're shoving them down people's throats, take down people who question what they're being told, take them offline, cancel their websites, and that's what we've been talking about.
What's interesting to note, though, is that a lot of the mom and pop places around here, because there are many in Keene, almost all of them are extremely strict in requiring masks out of their customers.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay.
However, the corporate giants like CVS and Walgreens and Walmart will let you in without a mask. But the locally owned gas station there won't.
Where was this?
This was right there at the roundabout near my house. I don't remember the name of the gas station.
Oh, okay.
But there are several.
They won't. They give you a hard time, huh?
Yeah, that's why I haven't been back there. I was like, okay, I'll just go somewhere else. Wow. And they actually warned me in advance. This was several months ago. They were like, hey, just so you know, as of tomorrow, you will have to have a mask to enter. I was like, okay. Well,
did you say I have a medical exemption?
No, I said, okay. Thanks for the heads up, and I haven't been back.
Well, see, I think people should try the magic words because these people are just afraid. I mean, they're not. Most of them aren't doing it out of some sort of belief in COVID necessarily. I mean, some probably are, but most of them are afraid of what the government gang is going to do or what their other customers will do to them. That's what they're afraid of.
And that's why CVS and Walmart are allowed to get away to get away with it.
So are the other companies. If they hear you say the magic words, then their response should be, oh, okay. And they let you in. Now, they could choose otherwise. They could say, no, you're still not welcome here. We don't welcome people.
One particular crypto restaurant here in Keene was targeted by the city of Keene repeatedly for not wearing masks. They never asked, are these people who are coming in without masks, do they have a medical exemption? They just said, okay, you're done. You have to close your carryout lobby.
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about the one that just closed down recently?
I hope not.
Thirsty Owl?
No. We're talking about the Indian restaurant.
Oh. Yeah, so okay. So what that comes down to is the government just trying to intimidate businesses, and it works.
It does.
Right? So the guy you're talking about, I was just in there tonight with no mask on and had no issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not
Well, they're
really...
going to make exceptions for some people no matter what. I mean, one of the convenience stores that I go to frequently has no must wear a mask, no exceptions. But
every place I go has signs like that, and they don't say anything to me.
But they've never said anything to me either.
Yeah. If they do say something, this is what happened to my tenant next door. He was over at Aldi, which is a larger company. I mean, they have, I don't know how many stores, but a lot, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they're nationwide at least.
Maybe. But they...
Well, they existed in the South, and they exist in New Hampshire. That's nationwide.
Okay. I'd never heard of them before this one. But regardless, my tenant went in there, and he actually, a manager confronted him and said, you need to wear a mask in here. And he said, well, okay, goodbye, and turned around and left. And he went back in there again on another week, and same thing happened. And he told me about this, and I said, well, did you try telling him you don't, or that you have a medical condition? And he said, no, I didn't know I could. I said, oh yeah, well that's, there's medical exemptions in all of these mandates. That's what these people are waiting to hear. Like they feel like they have to do this because the government told them they have to do this, even though it's just a quote unquote guidance, right?
Yeah, a recommendation.
Yeah. Well, no, they call it an order, but they also say it's guidance. So it's the governor's giving an order of guidance, which is very confusing. And so businesses will always err on the side of being overly cautious.
Sure.
But so I said this to him, and he actually went in the same day that he got kicked out. And it's the same manager who has kicked him out. So it wasn't like he was dealing with different people. The manager comes up to him again as he walks in with no mask and says, excuse me, sir, we already talked. And then my tenant says, well, I have a medical exemption. The manager said, okay, turned around and walked away. So they're a very obedient sort.
I would just rather not go to those people, though.
Yeah, I don't blame you, but there's so many of them out there that it makes life more difficult. Like they just want to be able to have the excuse. So if somebody calls and the cops show up, which the odds that's going to happen while you're there are very, very slim, but then they'll be able to say, oh, well, that person had a medical exemption. Well, then they can't write the ticket. So they're safe. But these businesses don't want to get to that point.
Right.
So the businesses like the guy you're talking about, the Indian restaurant, the cops come in there or the health inspector comes in there and says, Mohammed, you've got to start enforcing these masks. We've been getting reports, blah, blah, blah. They don't give him an actual written threat.
No, of course not. They don't want this on the record.
Right. They're just there to intimidate. And it worked, at least in the moment. And, he kind of closed down a little bit. Then he reopened it again, and you can walk in. The door's not locked or anything like that.
I just walk in.
Yeah, and he's never said anything to me about it. He's never said anything to you about it. So,
well, we're regular customers. We're keeping them in business.
But that doesn't matter. If they're worried about the fine, then they're going to enforce it. And so clearly he's not worried about it that much, but worried about it somewhat. So there's this constant, level of fear that the government is putting upon these people. So give them the excuse they need to allow you to shop in their store. They're not doing it, I don't think, because it's personal. They're doing it because they're afraid.
There are places that are doing it because they're afraid of COVID-19 more than they are the government. The bank I use has closed down its lobby.
Yep.
Which
it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely absurd. It makes the average trip to the bank, which should take 2, maybe 3-minute stops, turn into a 45-minute to an hour longer
while you wait in
deal.
A line of cars, right? In a drive-through.
All idling, just
ridiculous,
systematically destroying the environment.
Yes.
In order
it's okay
to
now. It's okay to destroy the environment now with all these masks in the rivers and everywhere.
I posted that on Twitter, and that people honestly responded, yes. Having all of these cars idling is better than risking COVID-19. Okay, so kill ourselves slowly in the future. That's a future us problem. Short-sighted, man. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. 603-283-6160.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Coinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Coinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Coinomi now. Or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. Give us a call, talk about whatever you want. With you tonight, it's Aria and Ian. And you know, someone asked us earlier if we were worried that they were coming for us next. He didn't mean it like this, but there was a bit of a thing last night that ended up happening with me where the Keene PD and the SWAT team were suiting up with automatic weapons on a bridge on the street adjacent to my house.
Oh boy.
I intended to go down there and troll them at some point, but before I'd even got around to it, I received a message from a co-host here on Free Talk Live telling me that they had mentioned my name on their police radios.
Huh.
And so I was like, oh God. And he was under the impression that I was about to be raided and all of this nonsense. And
didn't happen.
No, I sat out there for a few minutes, looking around. And I was like, okay, if this is going to happen, I want to be prepared, have all my cameras ready. Mm-hmm. And then I got bored and went back to my night. And of course, nothing happened.
Yeah.
But they are coming for Parler, it would seem. And Parler intends to fight back, at least in regard to Amazon. They're now suing them. I did have it pulled up and then I clicked away. Okay.
This story from CBS News. So Parler, for listeners that don't know, is this sort of right-wing, I guess, alternative to social media.
Well, I don't know if it intended to be right-wing, but it's the right-wing that are most heavily censored in the United States.
At the moment, yeah.
So they went to Gab first, and then they went to Parler now.
Yeah, and Gab, this is sort of like a repeat of what happened with Gab. So
did Gab get banned anywhere, though?
Yeah, Gab was taken down. I think it was at the time. I don't think it was Amazon that was hosting them. I think it was like Microsoft or something. There was some other big mega host that was hosting Gab at the time. And this was, 2016 or somewhere in that range? So this was a few years ago. The writing's been on the wall about this for some time.
Sure.
If it can happen to Gab, it can happen to Parler, and so on and so forth. Gab had their hosting taken down, but they popped up somewhere else. So Parler,
I'm on Gab right now.
Are you? Okay.
Well, I'm not active on it, but I have an account, and I occasionally monitor it to see what Nazis
what's being said. I also have an account on Gab, and I had been posting to it, but then they took away their API access. So, and I meant to say that. It was the other night on the show, I was actually complimenting Gab for their Mastodon instance, which is, success. It's been a very successful Mastodon. It's the most popular Mastodon on the planet.
Really?
From what I understand. That may not be true anymore, but at least it was true within the last year or so. And Mastodon, the organization behind Mastodon, hates Gab because the Mastodon people are from France and Germany, the bulk of their programmers. So they're a bunch of leftists. And so
even if not, Gab is sort of a haven for Nazis and alt-right people.
Maybe. I don't spend a whole lot of time on there. I did see there was a libertarian group, so maybe it's got some other people on there.
It does have some other people on there, but predominantly, when I think about Gab, it's all of the Nazis that are on it.
Yeah, I don't make judgments about platforms just because of who's using them per se. If the owner of it is a Nazi, then I would have a problem. But if it's the owner just created this thing and some Nazis went there, well, that's another story. It's hard.
Sure. And that's what happened with Gab.
So
I'm not criticizing the platform. I'm criticizing its user base,
right.
And that's why I don't use the platform. Is because of its user base.
Yeah. I never went on Parler, not because of its user base, but just simply because it
held no interest to me.
It's another centralized platform. I know what happens to these things.
The same thing happened with MeWe or however it's pronounced. A couple of years ago, everybody was like, "Oh, you got to come to this. It's so much better," and it died right off.
I've heard people still talking about that this year. I've heard, for instance, the White Rose apparently has a MeWe channel, but they still recommend Telegram as their primary source. But anyway, Parler, history is repeating itself here just a few years later, where now Parler has been taken down by Amazon. Amazon just abruptly gave him, 24 hours notice or something like that and said, well, you're done. You violated our terms of service because government or something like that.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, and they took him down. So now Parler is suing Amazon after the company got booted. Amazon Web Services booted them out over the weekend and claimed that it was not confident in Parler's ability to monitor content on its platform promoting or inciting violence. Amazon's, quote, decision to effectively terminate Parler's account is apparently motivated by political animus. It is also apparently designed to reduce competition in the microblogging services market to the benefit of Twitter, said Parler in a complaint filed Monday in Seattle federal court that violates antitrust law, the company claims. Now, they cooked this up real fast.
The lawsuit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They...
And it's nebulous. If they have some sort of evidence that Amazon did this because they were protecting Twitter from competition,
they won't have that evidence.
That would be stunning, but they're just asserting it, I imagine.
Yeah. They accused Amazon of using a double standard versus other platforms, pointing out Twitter had recently signed a multi-year web hosting deal with Amazon, so Twitter's a client, apparently. Parler is asking for a temporary restraining order blocking Amazon from shutting down their account. Quote, doing so is the equivalent of pulling the plug on a hospital patient on life support. It will kill Parler's business at the very time it is set to skyrocket, said the company in its suit. However, Amazon responded saying, quote, there is no merit to these claims. AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, provides technology and services to customers across the political spectrum, and we respect Parler's right to determine for itself what content it will allow. However, it's clear there is significant content on Parler that encourages and incites violence against others, and that Parler is unable or unwilling to promptly identify and remove this content, which is a violation of our terms of service. We made our concerns known to Parler over a number of weeks, and during that time we saw a significant increase in this type of dangerous content, not a decrease, which led to our suspension of their services Sunday evening, said Amazon. And I suspect that Parler will be thrown out of court, that this case will be found to have absolutely no standing whatsoever. That's typical what happens with cases. Usually the other party files a motion to dismiss, and in a lot of cases it's granted. The argument would be that Parler did have standing because they had a contract, so if it does go to court, I can see the court ruling in favor of Amazon here because, well, I mean, Amazon has plenty of attorneys, and these terms of service were written by those attorneys, so
unfortunately,
the attorneys know that, what these rules are, and if the rules say you can't have violent content, and they can show evidence that Parler had some, and I mean, there's undoubtedly going to be plenty of evidence for that, right?
Sure.
So they're going to be done for at that point. Parler would be better off, in my opinion, just going ahead and finding a new web host.
I don't know why they're not doing that.
Maybe they are, but
I suppose
spend the money on that instead of your attorneys.
Yeah. So it's looking bleak for Parler, but it's looking bleak pretty much everywhere on the internet.
Yeah, it is. These are pretty scary times for content freedom.
Facebook has now started removing all content that mentions Stop the Steal, and Twitter has also removed more than 70,000 accounts that spread the QAnon conspiracy theory. So, I mean, this crap is extensive, and it's, as you said,
brutal.
it's only going to get worse from here.
They took down Ron Paul, but then apologized later, apparently. Facebook did.
Yeah, they said it was an accident.
Uh-huh.
So
They've tried that
knows?
before.
Yeah.
They've done that before where they've taken down some, really important sounding person or whoever, and then there's enough of an outcry about it, and then they undo it.
It's power that these people shouldn't have, but then we have the question of how do you compete with them? How do you create your own social media network, and how do you actually take the power away from them?
Well, we just did it. social.freetalklive.com. Go check it out.
Go check it out. 603-283-6160. If you want to call in and talk about censorship, 603-283-6160 is the call-in line.
If you're looking for work, you know what I mean by elevator speech. It's the short version, saying just enough to make the listener want to listen more. Even if you're not a job seeker, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. So to cut through the clutter, choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Instead of saying, due to the fact that, say, because. And avoid mispronunciations. Say jewelry, not jewelry, which could offend. Undoubtedly, you don't want to say undoubtedly. And whatever you do, never use a preposition to end a sentence with. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Free Talk Live.
What's the difference between a stoplight and a school bus?
A stoplight is a light, and a school bus is a school bus.
Full of children.
Right. So
That's a good
the light
one.
doesn't have any kids in it.
That's what you call a derelict, educated derelict.
Yeah,
You gotta come out of Harvard.
I'm really not a derelict. I work for a living.
You are an educated derelict. Well,
Barbara,
you know what?
I agree with you.
Have fun, play your game.
No.
You're a
Because I'll tell you
fornicator,
what,
Mark.
When
Barbara.
you pass that next red light, I sure hope they get you good. And I
Barbara,
hope you don't kill anybody.
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, she hung up on you, Mark.
But I agree with you, Barbara. I was telling you that I agree with you except for the stoplight thing.
Children, Mark. There's children around at every red light. You could possibly kill someone.
This, by the way, gentlemen.
If you would run a red light at 3 in the morning when there's no traffic as far as the eye can see, then you would just as soon run over a school bus and kill all the kids inside.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. As always, take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever you want. We're talking about censorship, but we won't censor you here as long as you keep it FCC friendly. 603-283-6160. And as long as you're not James from Arizona, but he isn't. That's
Don't
not
even
censorship.
mention him. He's not worth talking about. I know he emails you every day, so you've got him on the brain, but yeah, he's not worth talking about.
That's nonsense that he emails me. 603-283-6160.
But it is every day, right?
It's every day that I'm on the show,
okay.
Evidently. So, I mean, evidently he's not just sitting around thinking about me on days when I'm not on the show,
okay.
which is kind of a relief.
Yeah.
But other places will gladly censor people. Evidently, Cumulus Media, and you know way more about this than I do, and I'm sure you have the story pulled up. They're telling talk show hosts to stop this election fraud nonsense, or we're going to pull the plug on your show.
Yeah. I got to say, I've been in the business for, well, my whole life, adult life at least, in the radio business, and I've never heard of anything like this happening before. So it seems like the largest radio company, if not second largest radio company, is getting on board with the, if not deplatforming, but controlling what their talk show hosts say. I mean, radio talk hosts and the companies that back them for many years had always touted freedom of speech. I mean, when we go to the Talkers seminar or the convention that they have every year, Talkers is the industry publication of note in the talk radio business. They've been that way for 20 plus years. When we would go to these seminars, they would have the Freedom of Speech Award. And now, obviously, Talkers, I think, still supports freedom of speech. But, every one of these companies, including Cumulus, they're sitting there in that room, their executives, clapping along with the Freedom of Speech Award as though they actually support it. But now, when the pressure's on, it seems like it's a different story.
I don't know enough about the industry to have known all of that, but it's alarming to me that Cumulus would try to play this card in an era where terrestrial radio is on the downtrend.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these talk show hosts have left radio in order to just make money on the internet because they turned out to make more money there.
Some have. Some have just left talk radio, whether they're making more money or not.
True.
But they certainly are better able to control their content if they're doing their own thing on the internet. They get to make the choices about when to do their show, from where to do their show. There's nobody that they have to report to anymore. So doing your own podcast certainly has its benefits.
It seems almost self-destructive the more I think about it, because, I mean, at a time when Facebook is censoring presumably these talk show hosts, when Twitter is doing it, when YouTube is doing it, terrestrial radio could be their safe haven. It's like, hey, all these other places, and it could.
You could
help.
talk here. if you can't talk there.
And it could help talk radio thrive again. But no, Cumulus is one of these tech giants, just like Apple and Google, and they're afraid of the government.
I wouldn't even call them a tech giant. They're an old media company.
Okay.
So,
an old media giant?
Yeah, these old media companies are actually notoriously not so techy, meaning that's not to say they don't have a website or whatever. Their sites have a website, but they're all like the same website. They use a template basically, and yeah, the graphics are a little different here and there. If it's a music station, obviously it's going to look different. You're going to see music performers on the front page instead of news from the area. So I mean, there are some differences, but it's clear that they're all like using the exact same template. So it's pretty bland, pretty corporate. And they've got it together enough with tech to be able to get their signal on the air, right? Like, I'm not saying they're completely clueless.
But I mean, they're using old tech as well, right? Almost none of these radio stations are receiving signals over the internet, right?
When you say receiving signal, you mean like
receiving the feeds via
from their shows or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them go through the satellite system, which again has its own technical, I'm just saying they're not big tech, right? Like they're old dogs. These are the dinosaurs, and they are. You're right. They are going out of business. I mean, it's Cumulus, for instance, is recovering from bankruptcy, as is Clear Channel, or formerly Clear Channel, now iHeartMedia. Both of these, two of the largest companies, the two largest companies in the United States, have both been through bankruptcy proceedings within the last 2 years, I think, and are still trying to come out on the other side of that. And
it's sad then that they've had this bone thrown to them, and they could use it to rebuild themselves.
Yes.
Hey, look, this is a free place. You can talk about anything you want. Come listen to our programs. We don't censor our hosts.
That's what somebody who is thinking would do. But you're an up and comer, Aria. These people are establishment. So they didn't get to where they are by doing anything but following the rules. And the reason for that is because the radio business is incredibly regulated, right? The FCC determines everything about what these companies live or die by. And so if they don't do what the FCC says, they're out of business. And so it's a very, very small business. There's only however many couple thousand to 8,000, I don't know. There's several thousand radio stations in the United States. I think 1,000 of them are talk stations, right? So there's probably thousands more of these music stations out there. But these companies were given a benefit in the 1990s when they were allowed to buy up more than a handful of stations. There used to be limits on the number of stations that companies could own, which, obviously there's
some antitrust nonsense, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, there should be no FCC, right?
Right.
But instead of getting rid of the FCC just changed the rules so that corporate mega companies could become even more mega than ever before. And so these companies bought up a ton of stations from these mom and pop operators. They called that consolidation back in the day, and this was in the 1990s. And since then, they've consolidated their staffs. They've cut positions. They've, even before 2020, there were already major staffing cuts that have been going on for the last 20 years at various times throughout the business, just slashing jobs, slashing, everything they could possibly slash because they've got a ton of debt that they can't pay off, essentially. And so it's just an absolute nightmare. But the way these companies look at things is well, we're protected. We've got the FCC on our side. And they have this attitude of, that
won't protect them from going out of business.
No, and that's the thing, and it won't protect them from the internet. And
also
that's really what's kind of coming in and nibbling away at their mind share with people. They still have an incredible incumbency. They've been around for a long time. People have the habit. Those of us who are not millennials and zennials, they don't have the habit like, say, Gen X does, where we grew up turning on the radio in the car. That's going away now. And
it is, because content is almost all on demand now.
Right. And
if I want to watch a show, I go on Hulu or something and I watch that show whenever I want. It's not being broadcast to me at a certain time or a certain date. And the same is true with music. If I want to listen to music, I just go on Spotify and play exactly what I want to hear. I'm not waiting on some DJ to play the song that I want to hear.
So you're not the only one with that opinion. And especially as you deal with younger people, they're more likely to hold that opinion. And the radio companies, they know this, but they don't do much about it.
I'm not sure there's anything they can do about it.
Well, that is the difficulty of being an old giant, is that, things worked the way they worked for a long time, and you want them to keep working that way, but things don't always work out the way, that you intend for them to, and change is inevitable. And if they can't roll with those changes, whether it be the radio companies figuring out some other way to distribute their product that's, relevant to young people today, or whether it be newspaper companies figuring out a way to make a buck online, these are old media has a real tough time, migrating from the king of the hill incumbency to being a competitor with thousands and thousands of decentralized options on the internet. Basically, they're just rolling on the incumbency saying, well, we got 1,000, 2,000 radio stations. We're Cumulus. We'll do whatever we want because we've got a license. And even though that's not going to be a recipe for success in the long run, it's going to keep them alive for the next decade.
That's true. And so now they've chosen to use that presence, that being the largest media company in radio and having all of these radio stations to tell their talk show hosts, hey, you can't talk about this anymore.
Yeah, and I've got the actual, not the whole memo, but I've got excerpts here in this Business Insider piece from what they actually said to their employees.
Oh, this should be good.
Yeah.
In other news that we're going to get into later, a company in Idaho has shut off the ability of people in ISP to access Facebook and Twitter because people just kept calling and complaining about those websites. What are your thoughts on this censorship? What can we do about it? 603-283-6160.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait a minute.
Forget the road.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the call-in number if you want to talk about whatever's on your mind, or if you want to talk about the censorship that we've been talking about. Now, we're not owned by Cumulus, so we can talk about election fraud and stop the steal all we want, and they really can't do anything about it other than kick us off the radio stations they happen to own.
They could do that. Not that we are necessarily of that viewpoint. Are you?
All elections are fraudulent.
Yeah.
I mean, this one was no more or less fraudulent than any other.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, we're not stop the steal people per se. But I did go to some Stop the Steal protests, but that was just because I wanted to give them flyers about secession.
Yeah, that was for the purposes of networking.
That was just outreach.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, we are definitely of an anti-state viewpoint here on Free Talk Live. So, I mean, it's certainly possible that some company or another could get a stick up their butt about us at some point. It's just that we're
Well, it's happened here and there, but it was, always smaller radio stations.
Yeah, it has happened here or there. The most recent one would have been last year when we lost our station in Janesville, Wisconsin for not going along with the government line. So we weren't
regarding COVID-19.
Regarding COVID. So because we weren't towing the government's line, therefore we were taken off the air. And the program director even told me at the time that he likes libertarians, he likes a lot of our viewpoints, but because of the times, he needed to take us off the air to make sure that everything was
unprecedented.
Yeah, everything was, all the programming was in alignment with the CDC and what the government wanted. And so I actually happened to call that guy today, and I didn't get him on the line though.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not changing our positions here, and we're not going to change what we're talking about just to please some corporate.
No,
bigwig.
I'll go off the air. I mean, if that's what it comes to. I think the reason why we've not been really faced with that on any sort of meaningful level is because we're just not that big of a show. I mean, when Rush Limbaugh said something about secession, it made it to the front page of Drudge Report. It was being reported everywhere. Because Rush Limbaugh talked about secession. That was the news story. Then 2 days later, Rush Limbaugh was like, "Oh no, I don't support secession."
Yeah.
And
we do.
He made excuses for it. We've been talking about it for years here, and no one's ever written a peep about the fact that Free Talk Live cares about that particular issue. So we're basically
maybe one day,
even though we're on 185 plus radio stations, we're still kind of off the radar. We're not a big show by any means, and if we ever did get large enough, then we may very well face some of these same challenges. But I think I
would still say screw them.
Yeah, I would too.
You would.
Yeah, but I'm just explaining why that hasn't happened, and given the very anti-state positions that this show takes, we haven't been targeted by the liberals or the conservatives for takedowns per se in any sort of meaningful fashion, because we're just not that influential.
So Cumulus.
Yeah. Cumulus, big corporation. They have told their company, the Westwood One, that's their satellite system, but it's also their syndicator. So where Rush Limbaugh is syndicated by Premier Radio Networks. That's owned by iHeartMedia.
Okay.
A bunch of other hosts are syndicated by Westwood One, which is owned by Cumulus. So Westwood One did put the word out to their employees. This according to Business Insider in a memo written by Cumulus's Executive Vice President of Content, Brian Phillips. He told employees that, quote, "We need to help induce national calm now." According to the Washington Post, the memo continued to say that Cumulus and its syndication arm, Westwood One, quote, "will not tolerate any suggestion that the election has not ended. The election has been resolved and there are no alternate acceptable paths," unquote. Any transgression from the policy?
I would say that's sensible. I mean, I don't support the telling their talk show hosts what they can and can't talk about, although I suppose they're under contract, so presumably they do have the legal authority to do that. But the election is certainly over, at the very least. Whether you think it was fraudulent or not, it is, at the very least, over. So that's fine.
Yes, indeed. And whatever your opinion is about the election, Joe Biden is going to walk into office on, January 20th. He's going to swear the oath. They're going to have a socially distanced ceremony where there's probably going to be no one in the audience.
They're going to have a nice little church service in honor of their new pope.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping to find the actual memo from Cumulus, but I have not actually pulled that up at this point. But it's part of sweeping measures that companies across the country are taking in response to the riots, so-called, at the Capitol.
Are you talking about the memo behind the paywall?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right-wing social site Parler, as we mentioned, has gone dark after Amazon booted it. Mark Levin is among the right-wing talk show hosts on Cumulus Media who has touted unfounded fraudulent election claims. On Tuesday's show ahead of the certification of Biden's election, Levin said, quote, "Do you think the framers of the Constitution and the framers of the 12th Amendment sat there and said, you know, that Congress has no choice but to count the electors even if there's fraud?" That's my best impression of him. He's very shrill sounding.
I've never heard him.
Yeah, he's our competitor, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we've actually been doing this show longer, I think, than he's been doing
We're
his
not
show.
crazy, though.
Well, depends who you ask. On another episode following the deadly storming of the Capitol, Levin condemned the violence. He went on to say that he and the other 74 million Trump voters are not part of a violent group, and he questioned who caused the violence, even though evidence showed Trump supporters carrying out the Capitol riots. Cumulus has local programming through 416 owned and operated stations across 86 markets, along with 8,000 affiliated stations through Westwood One, according to its website. Wow, they only have 416 stations left. They may not be the number one radio owner anymore, because I'm pretty sure they used to have like 2,000. So they've obviously sold a lot of them.
Returning to this remark from Levin, I also condemn the violence, but I can't help but notice the contrast between what he said and what we said about it. We were hoping that they would burn down the Capitol building.
It would have warmed my heart if they had. I wouldn't advocate specifically for something like that just to happen, but if it did happen, I can't say I'd feel bad about it.
No, I'd feel great about it.
Yeah. So,
just wanted to call attention to that contrast.
Yeah. Cumulus, I am curious to see who the number one station owner is these days. And for Business Insider to say Cumulus has local programming through those stations is that's not entirely accurate. A lot of these companies, they barely even have like one guy running 3 radio stations anymore. Like, there's hardly anyone left.
You're talking about the programming directors?
I just mean, period. The staff at the stations. I mean, prior to 2020, they were already down to skeleton crews in some markets where it was like one program director's running 4 radio stations.
That can't be good for their mental health.
In the old days, like way back 2 or 3 decades ago, they would have one program director for each radio station. The job of the program director is to listen to the station to make sure there's not some effed up stuff going on in the air, right? Like, you don't want to have things going wrong. If you've got dead air, you need to know about it. The program director needs to hear what the jocks are saying on the music station to know if they're getting things right or wrong or whatever, right? Like, you got to pay attention. You can't do that to 4 radio stations at once. You just can't do it. So they've asked these humans to, take on additional responsibilities on top of responsibilities. And then in 2020, they went and they axed half the remaining people that were left. And it was already been whittled down for the last 2 decades. So radio is in even worse of a shape now than ever before, because like with the newspapers last year and television, advertisers dried up.
Right.
Why are you going to advertise to people that won't even leave their homes? They can, or in some places can't legally leave their homes.
And this is why Amazon stocks exploded.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
People can't leave their homes, but they know where to go to look for stuff. And Amazon has all of these neat little algorithms that will target stuff that they're probably going to be interested in, without having to use these generic radio ads that I don't want to hear an ad for laundry detergent. What does that matter to me? One's as good as the other.
I've heard from more than one station, because it's my job to call radio stations during the daytime to pitch them on Free Talk Live. I've heard from more than one station that advertising dollars are down significantly, that it's hard to get existing advertisers who, let's say they had a contract that they were in February of last year. Mm-hmm. Well, then COVID hit, all these lockdowns happen. How are you going to get the advertiser that was paying you monthly for ads to pay in April? They don't have money anymore. There's no customers coming through the door. How are they going to pay for ad? I mean, even if they wanted to pay for the ads, in many cases they couldn't. So these stations are out all of that revenue, and so they had to slash jobs as a result of that. So now they have barely anybody working at these stations, barely any money coming through the door. I don't want to be, the bearer of bad news here or a negative Nancy, but just looking at the economics of the situation, 2021 is not going to be a good year for radio stations surviving.
It's a good time to look into increasing a podcast presence then, or increasing a video presence, because those at least don't require that advertising revenue. And if they do, then Amazon is happy to foot the bill on Twitch, because they know that it will ultimately come back to them with happy customers who buy whatever. 603-283-6160 is the call-in number, and this is Free Talk Live.
Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by TJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Breaking with her party. I'm Pam Huso, Fox News. A high-ranking House Republican says she'll vote to impeach President Trump.
Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney, the number 3 House Republican in GOP leadership, says she will vote to impeach President Trump this week. The House is expected to consider one article of impeachment accusing the president of incitement of insurrection following last week's deadly breach of the U.S. Capitol.
Fox's Jared Halpern. The impeachment vote is expected tomorrow. Tonight, the House is voting on a resolution urging Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. President Trump isn't taking any blame for the Capitol riot. He says the speech he gave on January 6th was totally appropriate.
Millions of our citizens watched
on Wednesday as a mob stormed the Capitol and trashed the halls of government. As I have consistently said throughout my administration, we believe in respecting America's history and traditions.
While speaking in Texas today during an event highlighting our southern border wall, the president said he believes in the rule of law, not violence. Additional violence is what federal agencies are trying to prevent.
This was a failure of our security apparatus. There's no reason that we should have been placed at such risk. That does not excuse anyone who was involved in organizing or whipping this up, doesn't excuse the president's actions.
House Democrat Dan Kildee, the FBI says more than 170 people have been charged in connection with the attack. Despite the public health emergency created by the coronavirus pandemic, the Supreme Court has ruled that women who want to obtain an abortion pill must first visit a doctor's office, hospital, or clinic in person. It's unclear if the in-person requirement will be put on hold once President-elect Joe Biden takes office. America's listening to Fox News.
Podcasts. Even in the new year, it's hard to start a new routine. But if you're one of the 34% of Americans who made a resolution to be less stressed, Headspace is here to help. Headspace is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research and can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Go to headspace.com/Fox for a free 1-month trial. This is the best deal offered right now. Headspace.com/Fox.com.
An about-face from the federal government when it comes to distributing the coronavirus vaccine.
The Trump administration is asking states to speed up COVID-19 vaccinations and says it will no longer hold back the second of the 2-dose shots for those 65 and older and others at high risk. Earlier today on Fox, Surgeon General Jerome Adams compared it to boarding a plane.
We do board according to priority groups, but we don't hold the next group waiting for someone to come back from the bathroom or decide to get on. We don't stop them from getting on when it's their turn.
States determine who gets the vaccine, and he says the CDC will give clear guidance to governors. The policy reversal follows last week's announcement by the president-elect that he plans to release almost all of the available vaccine doses when he takes office. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
New York is expanding its eligibility for the virus vaccine. Now anyone over the age of 65 can get it. Initially, Governor Andrew Cuomo prioritized frontline healthcare workers over other essential workers, but later reversed course. Some backlash from abroad as Twitter and other big tech companies ban or limit President Trump's access to their platforms.
A spokesman for German Chancellor Merkel, a longtime Trump critic, saying it is, quote, problematic that their president has been permanently blocked from Twitter. A minister in the government of French President Macron, another Trump skeptic, said regulation can't be done by the, quote, digital oligarchy itself. The European Union has been working towards...
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15% to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
From the day an ancient cave dweller painted yet another f***ing elk hunt on a wall in 15,000 BC, to Gary Marshall's 1974 discovery of 13 weather-beaten North Dakotan coal miners that would go on to become the cast of Happy Days, The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On June 17, 1954, the effects of the previous month's historic Supreme Court ruling in Brown versus the Board of Education provided black students with the educational opportunity of experiencing racism firsthand in desegregated schools. Up until that point, African American pupils could only endure racial slurs and death threats in city streets or near their homes. And on June 24, 1784, 13-year-old Edward Warren took the first hot air balloon flight, becoming the first American to urinate on a crowd from 100 feet in the air. And that was what happened this week in history.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the call-in number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
And it's Ian.
And WhatsApp evidently recently made some sort of change to its terms of service. I don't know anything about that. But I do have an article here from Call Live warning people before you rush off to Telegram. There's some stuff you should know. And I felt like it's important to share this because this is someone who ultimately is going to end up advocating using WhatsApp, owned by Facebook, over Telegram.
Fail.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. So it starts out sensible. In recent days, I've become horrified by the big tech tyranny and censorship. I felt we must fight back against big tech.
Who is this writing this?
It's by a reader, is all it says.
Oh, what was the site?
CallLive.com.
Call Live, okay.
COLLIVE.
Oh, Call Live, okay.
Yeah. The news about the lack of privacy on WhatsApp also worried me. Yes, it meant losing social networks, but I felt that I had to do my part. Watching tens of my friends also leaving and reading online, how thousands, if not millions, are leaving as well. Indeed, Telegram saw a bump of 25 million
in the last week
new
or
users
something?
in the last 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just crossed 500 million recently, like just this week.
They did. They're doing very well. I'm thrilled for them.
And that's global, by the
Yes.
way, 500 million.
It gave the author the feeling that we do have a movement here and that big tech will feel a little pain. And indeed, Twitter stock fell by 10%. But where to go? Telegram or Signal? Now, this is a bit confusing to me because
Or Matrix.
I don't consider Telegram or Signal to be social media apps. They're communication apps.
Well,
And sure,
WhatsApp is also a communications app, right? It's just messaging.
Okay. So I guess it is a
It's
fair
owned by
comparison to
Facebook.
WhatsApp. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never used WhatsApp because it's
Me
owned by
neither.
Facebook. I'm
Yeah,
only on
that's-
Facebook for outreach purposes.
Right. I left Facebook 3 years ago, and I certainly wasn't going to join WhatsApp.
Yeah. I'm still on Facebook, but I get banned so often that I might as well not be. So I figured I'll try both and see where the groups go. What I was quick to discover is this is wrong. Emergency, danger ahead. From a privacy perspective, I receive a message every time any of my contacts join Telegram, which means that the moment you join, Telegram would literally send a broadcast message about your joining to all your contacts on Telegram without asking you.
Well,
which is
that's
true.
true, but it did ask if it could look at your phone book.
And presumably you can tell it no.
I presume. I told
didn't-
mine yes.
Yeah,
because
I didn't bother to.
I find it useful to know who else is on Telegram.
That's exactly why I did it.
Right.
And if they're in my contacts, then I'm okay with them knowing that I'm on Telegram.
Yep.
The contacts are sorted by, quote, last seen, which is another thing that bugs me, but I've also turned it off. This means that you will pop up at the top of everyone's list every time you open the app. Oh, and disabling this, quote, feature in your privacy settings only removes the exact timestamp, but it will still say just now, if you're online, a long time ago, etc. Why is that even a thing? Do you decide who you want to text based on last seen? This is a terrible breach of privacy. I don't know if I would call it a terrible breach of privacy, but it is a feature that I feel one should have to opt into.
Okay, I see what you're saying there.
Even while setting up Telegram, one, they require you to enter at least a first name. Why do they
My
need to know
God.
that? So beginning to get unreasonable and peculiar here. You don't have to enter your legal first name. You can enter whatever in the hell you want,
Right.
but you have to have a way to be identified
Right.
on the system.
Yeah, you could just put a symbol or something in there. I don't imagine there's any restriction on it.
No, I don't know why that is their complaint. They repeatedly ask for permission to place and receive calls, quote, in order to verify your phone number. That's not the
That
reason.
is a weakness of Telegram, is that it does require a phone number.
It does.
So that is a legitimate complaint. And so does Signal.
Yeah. Well, Signal, it makes sense because it's an It's a texting service.
No, it's not. It used to be. A long time ago, Signal actually used to send its messages over text. It does not anymore.
Well, no, it sends them over the internet now because it can't encrypt an SMS message.
No,
But-
they used to be able to.
Really?
That's the way Signal used to work. And it was, I don't know, only a few years ago that it was this way. But if you received a signal from somebody and you weren't on Signal, it would just look like an encrypted bunch of garbage because it was an encrypted text message.
Oh.
And it would literally break the messages into, as many texts as it needed to get the data across.
Now it only encrypts if the other user has Signal.
Correct. Yeah. If the other user doesn't have Signal, then yes, it will send a text message. But
I will say that's a good feature because it allows me to just use Signal to text everyone. I don't have to go back and forth between that and the
you didn't have
built-in-
to before either.
Well, I did if I wanted them to receive a legible message on the other end.
No. If you could send unencrypted on Signal. If you and you still can. If you hold down so let's say you and I were in a Signal conversation, and for whatever reason I want to send you a text message instead. If you hold down like the send button, it'll give you the option to send insecure SMS.
Okay.
Yep.
But the reason that Telegram does this is because they need to be able to place and receive phone calls for you to call people on Telegram. I've never gotten a verification call about my phone number from Telegram. I don't think they even do that.
Yeah, they do.
Really?
Yeah,
it was
that's
always
the only-
SMS for me.
Well, okay. Right. By default, SMS is the option, but if you can't get an SMS, they will call you.
Okay.
But that is the reason they have the phone numbers is purportedly for, to stop spammers or whatever. Of course, that doesn't work at all because the spammers just get fake phone numbers and they have these services that they can spin up a phone number for zero cost or whatever. So it doesn't do anything except keeps legitimate people who don't have phone numbers off of Telegram. So that's a big downside to Telegram is it does require a phone number.
I denied and denied until they finally resorted to just asking for my permission to my call log, which I denied. Then they finally just sent me a regular SMS to verify my phone number. Was that so hard? Couldn't they have started with this privacy-friendly method? From a safety perspective...
That's not privacy-friendly. They have your phone number.
Yeah. From a privacy perspective, the feature called Nearby People will reveal nearby users, including their profile pictures and their exact distance in feet to you, and nearby public group chats. The users and groups on this list are not from your contacts. They are anybody and any group opted in to be discovered, where any stranger can post literally anything. Again, that's opt-in,
You can opt into that, yeah. And there was a story recently that a hacker was able to use that system to actually identify fairly precise locations of people. So it's kind of a dangerous thing for those that are concerned about their locations.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to opt into that. I don't want
Just
to
to see who's around.
I don't care who's around.
Yeah,
if I
you
know
don't,
them
but-
and they're on Telegram, then they will have a way to contact me on Telegram already.
Some people might want to roll the dice. I mean, you've met more than a few people you didn't know on the internet.
That was opt-in, though. I
Right.
opted into that.
This
you
is
know?
opt-in as well.
Yeah, okay, fair point.
The idea being, hey, you just came into a new area. Okay, let's say you moved to a place, or you're visiting a place or whatever, and you're like, I want to see who's on Telegram around here that is also in this mode and see what chat rooms there are or whatever. So if you were to do it here in Keene, you would find that there's a chat room for... Actually, I think the ARIA channel, was created in that way, if I recall correctly. There's definitely one of the Republican chats around here.
Yeah, the Eli Rivera chat is is there.
That's the one. That's right. We started that as your channel. And we put it out. This was back when you were running for office for listeners.
We
that don't know.
immediately put it out there on Twitter, gave it no thought whatsoever.
Right.
Like, this will be fine. This was when the sheriff's campaign was exploding.
Right. And every troll jumped into this, or a bunch of them, jumped into this chat room and just turned it into like a hate fest against just everything. Like, there's racists came in there and just awful, people in general, and just turned it into a total S show. And so we renamed the channel Re-elect Eli Rivera, who was your opponent, put his face on the channel, and just you abandoned it, and I'm still technically sitting in there just to watch what happens.
I'm still in there as well, but I leave it muted.
Oh, do you?
They
Okay.
seem to be having a good time. They post there
Posting Nazi
still, as
memes.
far as I'm aware. Likewise, their channels feature makes the worst content discoverable to anyone with one search.
The worst content?
Yeah. This feature is unfiltered, and it is filled with crap of the lowest kind. The status quo is much safer. So I am back to WhatsApp and encourage everyone else to stay.
So that last point is basically, whoa, there's too much freedom here on Telegram. There's all kinds of things that I don't want to see because too much freedom. Better go back to Facebook.
I want to know what smut of the lowest kind she's talking about, or he's talking about, because I've never found anything like that on Telegram by searching.
Apparently you haven't been searching for the right smut.
Maybe I need to look on Telegram more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Live video of our Keene, New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the call-in line. You can talk about anything that's on your mind. And you know, we organize a lot of stuff here in Keene, New Hampshire, but organize is kind of a hard word, and we often use Telegram to do it. Telegram is also heavily used at ForkFest, and you can join us there June the 28th through July the 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest is the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest...
Not true anymore. Sorry, we haven't updated the copy.
Well, crap, I just put in my
official.
time off request.
Yeah, you may have to modify it, unless you want to spend an extra week up there. It's looking like PorkFest is going to join ForkFest this year. I'll be talking with Carla Garrick from the Free State Project tomorrow about that.
I hope that's not true.
Really?
They really want that 4th of July weekend. They got so jealous that we got that 4th of July weekend that they're going to break their, 15-year tradition
That's correct.
of having it around the equinox.
They are. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing.
Or the solstice, whichever
That's
one
right.
it is.
That's what they're doing.
That's pathetic.
I think it's great. I think it's exciting. I think it's great that both events are coming together for the first time.
I liked having our own thing. You know,
well, you can still do your own thing.
That wasn't, I know, but the Porcupine Freedom Festival people, they have such a different vibe and a different way of doing things. I mean, they have pork rangers.
Yep, that's true.
So
But
now
those pork rangers stayed near the pavilion this last year.
they did this last year,
Yeah,
but still, cops are cops.
it's true.
But there's no ticket cost for ForkFest.
Nope.
Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June the 28th through July the 4th. And where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? Check it out, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June the 28th through July the 4th. We're going to be there, and it's going to be great. You know, as I sat here reading that a bit more and thinking about it, I won't be sad about not spending 2 weeks at Rogers Campground, because by the end of that 2 weeks, I was just mentally wiped out.
Were you?
Yeah. It was a very long vacation. It was enjoyable. But 2 weeks of it, I'm ready to get back to my life and everything that's going on and everything that I missed. Well, let's go to...
What you might be able to do is, remember, ForkFest is decentralized. So it's my understanding the Porcupine Freedom Festival will be starting on that Tuesday. So we've been promoting June 28th, which is, I believe, a Monday, through July 4th, which is the following Sunday, or that Sunday. So they're going to be starting on the 29th, because the Porcupine Freedom Festival hasn't been a full week-long event for years now.
So ForkFest officially will last longer.
Well, there's nothing official with ForkFest. There's just what we say, right?
Okay,
so
fair point.
If you were to say ForkFest is going to start on the prior Thursday now, or Friday,
Sure.
and ForkFest could then grab the weekend prior to the Porcupine Freedom Festival and the week of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, then that would make the Porcupine Freedom, or that would make ForkFest a week and a half instead of the full week. So then you'd have 2 weekends. You'd have a weekend of ForkFest where it's just ForkFest, sort of like we used to,
Right.
well,
Back when it was a pre-party.
yeah, in that we were a week prior to the Porcupine Freedom Festival. This would just be like 3 or 4 days prior. So that's an option, right?
That's true.
If you don't want to do a full 2 weeks, you can do whenever you want.
But I would be
whenever
the
you
only
want.
one there for the week prior to the
I mean,
ForkFest experience.
not
I mean, there would be
necessarily.
other campers and stuff, but...
Not necessarily. I mean, if we started saying that we're going up 4 days early, then
true.
For us, ForkFest starts on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or whenever it was that we would decide to do that. So it's just all up to who. I mean, who knows what the actual ForkFest attendees are going to, besides, we're just talking here, right? Like, we're
Right.
just 2 attendees. The difference between us and the average attendee is we have a radio show.
Yeah.
So
we can promote the times.
We can promote times that we want to promote.
Yeah.
So that's up to us. But I think it's exciting because, look, Aria, there's been some people who've been trying to drive a wedge between certain folks in
Sure.
the Free State Project or the New Hampshire Liberty Migration or whatever. There's
I mean,
certain
you understand why
personalities-
I have a bit of hesitation about this particular individual.
I don't know which individual you're referring to, but I do
Well,
understand.
the one that does not like me and refused to come on the air if I was anywhere near
the
the tent.
Well, that's the
I
sort
don't
of thing.
mind it, but I mean, it's like that mentality.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
frustrating.
fit with ForkFest.
Yep, I agree with you, but ultimately,
What's best for the Liberty community is more important than that petty squabble, though.
yeah, and that's what I want to see happen here is, hopefully the most petty people will stay home And I think that actually, to some extent, happened in 2020 because the word got out that we were going to be at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and a certain group of people really doesn't like the Keene people, and, they stayed home.
Oh, sucks for them. They missed a nice time.
Yeah, they had their own little festival in somebody's backyard somewhere, apparently.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the phones. We've got Gene calling from Kentucky. Gene, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I was going to talk, but y'all kept me on hold for 16 minutes. So
I'm
thank
sorry
y'all.
about that.
Oh, so you're just going to complain and hang up?
Well,
okay.
It's a talk show, and we were talking. So anyway, in other news, the creator of Telegram has responded to these allegations.
Well, she
against
really
it.
showed us, didn't she? I'm kidding.
Who, this lady?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just threw me off. I mean, we can't control the fact that you called during the previous segment.
Right.
And that we couldn't screen your call until the break.
Until the break, yeah.
And then as soon as we
brought you
got
on.
the opportunity to, we brought you
Yeah,
on.
some people just don't have any patience. I guess they don't want to talk on the radio. That's fine. Yeah. You don't want to hit our national audience with whatever your great ideas were going to be.
What
Or
a
not.
shame.
So you mentioned Pavel Durov. He is the founder of Telegram. He is apparently a Russian anarchist, supposedly. Now,
I've never talked with him, but I've always heard that he's an anarchist.
yeah, me neither. And but when that was brought up in one of our Telegram chats earlier today, we did have Will, who is a friend of the show. He did some research and found an article where, yeah, here it is. So apparently his views on how to fix Russia, and he says that based on his Russian manifesto, I would describe him as an ANCAP-ish Russian nationalist. So leaning
That's-
towards anarcho-capitalism.
But the Russian nationalist part kind of conflicts with that.
It may mean that he just loves Russia.
Okay.
Like I said,
Nothing
I
wrong
haven't
with
read,
loving the land, I suppose.
Yeah, I haven't read the manifesto, but he did look through it. So Durov responded to all this controversy. You were just reading an article of a guy who was saying, I'm not going with that Telegram because there's too much freedom on there. They searched, the person who wrote the article you read had searched for something and found that there were so many different disturbing things.
I've searched for stuff and I've never found anything that would have disturbed me.
Well, you're a little different than the average WhatsApp user, I imagine. So they ran back to the safety of Facebook and the safety of WhatsApp. But in my show prep here tonight, I do have a statement by Pavel himself. He says, I have, and this is posted to his own channel on Telegram, his official channel. He says, I hear Facebook has an entire department devoted to figuring out why Telegram is so popular. Imagine dozens of employees working on just that full time.
Sounds like a pretty cushy job.
Yeah, I'm happy to save Facebook tens of millions of dollars and give away our secret for free. Respect your users. And then he says a little bit more about what's different and some of the myths and the misinformation about Telegram.
Excellent stuff to get into. We're going to get into that here on Free Talk Live. If you don't want to sit on hold for 16 minutes, give us a call now, 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. Circumventing censorship here, and we allow you to talk about anything that's on your mind. Just keep it FCC friendly.
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have two cats, Dixie and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cat to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agoristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agorist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agoristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agoristhosting.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and you can talk about anything that's on your mind. 603-283-6160 is the call-in number, and with you tonight, it's Arya.
And it's Ian.
And AnyPay 2.0 is here, and crypto payments are now faster than ever. If you're using the Edge wallet, Handcash, Bitcoin.com, or Dash wallets, then your experience will be smooth, but some wallets aren't ready for the impressive new technology. And the people who program these wallets need to hear from you, the wallet user. So visit anypayinc.com/upgrade to learn why some popular wallets like Coinami are incompatible with AnyPay 2.0, and reach out to the wallet programmers and encourage them to make payments perfect at anypayinc.com/upgrade. I would highly recommend everyone do that, or just switch to a better wallet like Edge or Handcash or the Bitcoin.com or Dash wallets. I mean, don't use an inferior wallet. But let's go to the phones because we've got David calling from New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I just wanted to update for anybody that wants to sit in on that court hearing on this Friday at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I'm not able to access your Matrix chat, but it's very easy to look up the numbers yourself if you want to. I just gave you the time zone, and to find phone numbers, it's metro.nmcourts.gov. And
so they just give phone numbers of their courts out publicly, and anyone who wants to can call in.
Yeah, you can tomorrow morning if you got nothing to do, or you can call in every day of the week, morning and afternoon, just by looking at the spreadsheet that's published right there at that website. It's a PDF. You go to that website, the very top link says here, and you click on it, and it'll download a PDF spreadsheet. It'll tell you courtroom by courtroom by courtroom what the call-in number is and the passcode, and then you're in. And you can listen and you can even talk. But I guess you don't want to be talking over them in court. It might cause some sort of a problem.
Yeah, the judges don't tend to take real kindly to that.
Yeah, but as you pointed out, in this age of conference calls and Zoom meetings and all of this other stuff in the courtrooms, the judges have way less control over the situation than they did in the past.
Yeah, I presume that their clerk of court probably has some sort of panel where they can mute people, but
they can. Yes. Yeah, they can mute you, and they can also they could choose if they think that they by law need to leave you able to hear, they'll just mute you, and if they think that they don't need to even have you there, they can disconnect you.
Sure.
So why would anyone want to do this? I don't enjoy dealing with court when I have to.
Oh, well, sometimes, observing court can be interesting. It can be educational. It could be enlightening as far as how they're handling court in the COVID age, where now all these things are being done online. I've actually witnessed a couple of court hearings recently that I was not particularly a party to, just out of curiosity.
So does anything particularly interesting happen at 8:30 tomorrow, David?
This is Mountain Time.
Well, it would, 8:30 Mountain Time, and it's on Friday of this week in the courtroom of Victor Valdez on that spreadsheet. But this will be interesting, because there are several heated at-issue items that have not been resolved, and if they're not resolved between now and that hearing, then they're going to be resolved by me moment one, because I'm not going to wait to see if they resolve them in the hearing. I'm just going to force the issue. So.
Okay, cool.
So if you want to hear David in action, because he's called a lot, right? Like about going to court, and he's got a lot of experience in court. So if you want to see somebody go pro se, or hear someone go pro se in court, then it might be interesting to tune in.
8:30 Friday morning Mountain Time.
Yeah.
Check it out. Should be interesting. David, I wish you the best of luck with your court appearance, although it is a court, and they're never particularly fun.
I was recently listening in on a gentleman who was ticketed for shooting off fireworks at one of our nightcaps. I attended his court hearing.
How did that go?
On the phones. It was just a pretrial conference, so there wasn't much that went on, but they scheduled a trial.
Okay.
Ultimately, but it was it was interesting to hear sort of how these things go, where there's multiple people on the line and there's noise and it's confusing, and it's like your typical conference that anybody has with any business these days, with everybody meeting on these online meetings, except it's a court and there's a man in a robe purportedly who's in there, and he doesn't have as much control as he once had. However, I bet you if you said "F you, judge" on the line, I bet they'd send men with guns to your house if they knew where you were. I bet you they would.
Yeah.
Because that's contempt.
It is contempt.
Mm-hmm. Normally, contempt is there's direct criminal contempt, there's indirect criminal contempt, and I think there's civil contempt as well. And I think there might be direct and indirect on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, legal scholars out there. I'm certainly not an attorney, so I may be inaccurate on that. But generally, direct criminal contempt is where you do a thing in the presence of the man in the robe.
Yeah. Contempt, all of these different types of contempt of court, by the way, aren't actually legally justified anywhere. It's just considered to be an inherent power of the courts.
Correct. And so I suspect you would still get hit with direct criminal contempt, even though you weren't within the judge's vision, you weren't within his chamber per se, but you were on the phone line with him. So I suspect they would try for direct criminal contempt if you said F you or something else the judge didn't like.
That's insane.
But he can't stop you from getting high or drunk on the phones.
Well, that would lead you to be more likely to say F you, judge,
That's
I would
true.
imagine. So might not be the best advice for people. But the guy who created Telegram is responding now to some of these criticisms that people have of Telegram.
He is. Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, he says that he's happy to save Facebook tens of millions of dollars because he's heard they have an entire department dedicated to figuring out why Telegram is so popular. He says millions of people are outraged by the latest change in WhatsApp's terms, which now say users must feed all their private data to Facebook's ad engine.
Wow.
It's no surprise that the flight of users from WhatsApp to Telegram, already ongoing for a few years, has accelerated. And I'll say this. One of the points earlier made by the person who was critical of Telegram, pointing out that whenever somebody in your phone book installs Telegram, it pops up a notice. They come to the top of your list and it says so-and-so has installed Telegram.
Yeah.
I've seen that happening more often.
I have as well.
Yeah, in the last week.
From people I wouldn't expect to be on Telegram otherwise.
Yep. The owner of the restaurant down the street from Rogers Campground popped into Telegram this week. That restaurant sadly is closed, but she popped onto Telegram, and I sent her a message saying, "Hey," and you send a thumbs up, sticker to him, and welcome to Telegram. He goes on. He says about 500 million users. They crossed that, by the way, after he wrote this. Telegram has become a major problem for the Facebook Corporation. Unable to compete with Telegram in quality and privacy, Facebook's WhatsApp seems to have switched to covert marketing. Wikipedia editors have recently exposed multiple paid bots adding biased information into the WhatsApp Wikipedia article.
Wow.
And then he has citations for these, by the way, these claims that he's making. We also have detected bots which spread inaccurate information about Telegram on social media. Here are the 3 myths that they are pushing. Myth number 1. Telegram's code is not open source. That's the myth. He says, in reality, all Telegram client apps have been open source since 2013. Our encryption and API are fully documented and have been reviewed by security experts thousands of times. Moreover, Telegram is the only messaging app in the world that has verifiable builds for both iOS and Android. As for WhatsApp, they intentionally obfuscate their code, making it impossible to verify their encryption and their privacy. Now, the one thing he didn't say in there was that Telegram's server is open source. He did not say that because, from what we can tell, it's not open source. But the clients are.
But do messages sent from one client to another have to go through Telegram servers?
No, purportedly they have end-to-end encryption on the so-called secret chats.
Okay. So it's mostly just like the group chats and stuff that are being stored on their servers?
Yes.
Okay, well, those are public anyway.
Not all of them.
603-283-6160. We're talking about ways to circumvent censorship here. If you have any ideas, give us a call. Of course, one of the best ways is to get away from Facebook and Twitter, but there are other ideas like using Telegram. Give us a call. Let us know. 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Shortly after beginning his first date with area woman Pauline Geary, smitten local man Brad Holtman told Onion reporters he couldn't believe that the woman was also a fan of the 1960s British rock band, the Beatles.
We were just talking about music, and she mentioned that she liked the Beatles, which is crazy because I love the Beatles, actually. Yeah, funny thing is, I was not really even looking forward to the date. I figured we'd get a drink or whatever, but it's turning out a lot cooler than I thought it was going to. I mean, she's just such a huge fan. She knows all the Beatles names. She even owns some of their albums. I've been a Beatles fan since like 6th or 7th grade, so I don't want to get too excited and jump into something. So I think I'm going to ask her if she's ever seen The Godfather, which is probably my top 5 movies of all time.
This is the Onion News Network.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, 603. I'm not going to bother to give out the number at this point.
Oh, you could.
I know, but I don't want to risk taking unscreened calls. I mean, even though the dump button is instant, I know, and even though it rebuilds instantly, it's just not a habit I want to get into, I guess.
Okay.
But anyway, I want to say thank you to RC, who is tonight's amplifier. This means he likes the show enough to give us all we ask, and just $5 per month to join the program. Absolutely. This is money that is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, hence his name. It comes with a number of cool little perks, like an AMP-only call-in line, an AMP-only Facebook group, I think still exists, and occasionally has people posting to it. And an AMP-only room on the Matrix server that you can find at matrix.lrn.fm.
Technically, that room's not AMP-only. The folks supporting the LRN Patreon are also welcome in that room. So it's, it's called the supporters room.
Who admins that room?
I do.
Okay. I was just curious who was the gatekeeper of it. Mm-hmm. So check it out. RC, thank you so much. We hope you like the show, and we hope you continue amplifying it. So the creator of Telegram is responding to some of these absurd allegations. Evidently, people are going around complaining that Telegram servers aren't open source, or they're phrasing that in a misleading way. But
he's saying it's bots. He's saying that WhatsApp, presumably, is sending bots around social media making claims about Telegram. Not that there are even people who are doing it.
Well, people will repeat the claims that those bots make, but I don't think that the average person who's trying to get away from WhatsApp really cares whether or not Telegram is open source.
Yeah.
So that seems to me a very silly tactic for WhatsApp to employ.
Well, there's not a lot that you can really indict Telegram for. I mean, it really is a great app. I mean, as far as...
It makes me think that By a Reader piece we read earlier was one of these...
One of them.
Yeah.
One of the hit pieces from Facebook.
Yeah.
So, Telegram, it's not perfect. We did point out that they do require a phone number. That's not that great. They could have chosen not to do that.
It hasn't bothered me.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is...
It's tied to my old cell phone number, so I don't even have it anymore.
Yeah, and you can also tie it to a landline if you wanted to.
But I like being able to give people that old cell phone number to find me on Telegram, because it means I don't have to give them my actual cell phone number.
Yeah, that's true. And you can also put a username on there and then just give them your username, but you still have to have a phone number to sign up. So, it's not perfect, but it's pretty unassailable as far as a centralized chat app because it's really good. Like we've used it here in the Keene area for most of the last decade.
Wow.
And have used it very, very successfully.
Wire is also pretty good, but I prefer Telegram.
They use Wire on the seacoast, from what I understand. So myth number 2 of the 3 myths that he says Facebook is promoting about Telegram. Telegram is Russian. And he says, in fact, because he's from Russia, right?
He is.
In fact, Telegram, and this I didn't know, Telegram has no servers or offices in Russia and was actually blocked in Russia between the years 2018 and 2020.
I remember that. It was because, I don't remember why, but I do remember that the Russian government got really mad about Telegram and banned it.
That's because they won't do what the Russian government says. He's a Russian anarchist.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the government. Telegram is still blocked in some authoritarian countries, such as Iran, while WhatsApp and other, quote, supposedly secure, unquote, apps have never had any issue in these places.
It's because WhatsApp doesn't encrypt your messages. It says it
claim
does.
They do.
But there's absolutely no reason to believe that that's true.
Oh,
and
you trust Facebook, don't you?
And even if they do encrypt it, I guarantee you Facebook has backdoors.
They've certainly got a key.
And it's almost proven by them requiring you to give up all of your WhatsApp data usage and all of that other information to Facebook.
You don't get Iran to let you in if you're being, disobedient, if you're refusing to allow them into your servers or into the back doors or have some sort of an agreement with their Iranian intelligence authority or whoever it is that's doing that sort of work over there. So what he's suggesting here, without really coming right out and saying it, is the fact that WhatsApp is available in Iran, but Telegram is banned, suggests that WhatsApp is compromised from top to bottom.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah.
It's Facebook.
Yeah. Finally, myth number 3. Telegram is not encrypted. He says every chat on Telegram has been encrypted since the launch. We have secret chats that are end-to-end encrypted and cloud chats that also offer real-time, secure, and distributed cloud storage.
Okay, so I'm confused here. I thought that if I just shot you a random Telegram message that it was not encrypted.
Supposedly they are, but one of the complaints about Telegram is that the encryption is supposedly not that great, from what I've heard. Now, I am not an expert on this field at all. I personally don't care because I'm not going to say a thing over Telegram that is a secret.
Right.
Because we don't really know for sure. Yeah, their clients are open source, but did you build the client yourself? Because if you didn't build the client yourself from the source, then you don't really know, what it is.
You're starting to sound like Chris Wade here.
Yeah. Well, Chris is right. Chris is right about that.
But at some point I find it easier just to trust people, and the Russian anarchist who refused to give into the Russian government is going to be fairly high up there.
You have to pick who to trust in life. There's no doubt about it. If it were for some super secure information, I would trust a whisper in an ear over any kind of electronic communication. And if I had to communicate electronically, I would trust PGP over anything else, Signal, Telegram, etc. But one thing's for sure, Telegram is going to be better than unencrypted text message, which any police agency can get simply by going and knocking on the phone company's door, for the most part. He goes on, he says here that WhatsApp... so saying they offer real-time, secure, and distributed cloud storage, which is actually a really handy feature. Telegram will let you upload files of up to 2 gigabytes.
Which is massive.
Which is very large. And then
considering Facebook cuts you off at 25 megabytes, and I don't know what WhatsApp cuts you off at, but it's not going to be 2 gigabytes.
Yeah, and that's just per file. I don't think there's actually a limit. So you can send one 2 gigabyte file, and then another one, then another one, then another one. So if you got 10 gigs to send, you just got to send 5 parts basically.
If you have it on 2 devices, it also makes it incredibly easy to move files between
from
those
one
2
to
devices.
another.
I don't even have to give it any thought anymore. If I want to move a picture or something from my phone to my computer,
just drop it in Telegram.
Sure. There's
you can
other
send it
ways
to yourself,
do it.
basically.
Yeah.
You're sending it to yourself.
I could email it to myself or whatever.
Too many steps.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can just pop that open and send it.
Right. I do it all the time. Going on here, he says WhatsApp, on the other hand, had zero encryption for a few years and then adopted an encryption profile or protocol funded by the U.S. government.
Oh, that's encouraging.
And again, he's citing links to these things here. Even if we assume that WhatsApp's encryption is solid, it's invalidated via multiple backdoors and reliance on backups. In 2019 alone, Facebook spent almost $10 billion on marketing. He says, I guess this includes the paid bots on Wikipedia and other sites.
Unlike Facebook, Telegram doesn't spend any money, let alone billions of dollars, on marketing. We believe that people are smart enough to choose what's best for them, and judging by the 500 million people using Telegram, this belief is justified.
That is a big number, 500 million people.
Yeah.
I underestimated it.
Yeah, it's an amazing little service. Again, to come back around to the larger discussion about decentralization, you're not decentralizing by going with Telegram per se, in that it is still a centralized service. However, it's not a mega corporate kind of, big tech oligarch service. It's always been, even though it's got 500 billion or 500 million people on there, that doesn't mean that they're a huge corporation or whatever. They're still a relatively nimble and young organization that seems to be about undermining governments rather than cooperating with them. And so to that end, if you have to pick a centralized chat service, Telegram seems to be the way to go these days. Not to say there aren't other options out there, but it's a winner for sure.
In order to truly get, secure decentralized messaging, you have to get really thick into the weeds, and at that point your capabilities of messaging people just plummet. Like, I'm thinking Keybase, it has a messaging service.
It does,
but if you're
clunky,
if you're like, this is the only messaging service I'm going to use because it's decentralized and it's secure and it's encrypted.
Keybase is not decentralized.
Not anymore.
Never was.
Well, the messages presumably are on the
messages
blockchain.
were encrypted. They're not on the blockchain. They're saved on, I believe, Keybase's server, but you have the key to the messages, as I understand it. And they supposedly don't.
Okay. At any rate, you're
Zoom
limited.
bought them.
Yeah. So avoid Keybase now.
Yeah.
But at any rate, the point I was making was that you're limited in the number of people you can message. You can't text your boss to let them know you're going to be late because your boss isn't going to be on Keybase.
Sure. Well, to some extent, more people are now going to be getting off of these old services than ever before because it's their friends are leaving. And if your friends are finally leaving Facebook, then you might also be encouraged to leave Facebook as well. If you're looking for decentralized messaging, Matrix is the best system out there for it, and it is federated, and it is open source, and it works great for us. Check out our Matrix server. Go to chat.lrn.fm, and you'll get the instructions there. But more importantly, check out our new social messaging system, which is basically a Twitter clone. You can go to social.freetalklive.com. It just launched today, so check that out. social.freetalklive.com.
This has been Free Talk Live. Check out all of the other stuff, but first head on over to that social media site at social.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government.